Everyone's been focused on Israel, Gaza, the huge debate about Israel and the United States, which is great, fine. But we sort of are ignoring other things that are happening here and abroad as we have that debate. And one of the things that seems to be happening that fewer Americans are aware of is the situation in Russia seems to be getting between Russia and Ukraine and the United States and Europe, NATO, seems to be degrading quickly. Where is that going, do you think?
It's an extreme escalatory phase, 3.5 plus years in. As you know, Trump says he's strongly considering giving them long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles. And Russia has said that escalates into direct war. And they're basically calling it World War IV. The CIA called the Cold War World War III. So we are really in with all the ingredients we have with China, the North Korean troops being in Ukraine, all the different proxy countries involved. This is really a new world war. The only question is, will it continue to escalate, which it is now. And in the next phase, we know that NATO has already been caught with Zelensky with Ukraine 2 years ago shooting missiles into Poland. They tried to blame on Russia. There's been those drones that they claim came out of Russia, but Russia says was basically a setup. A few months ago, you have Operation Spiderweb 3 months ago with smuggled drones as far as 4,000 miles away from Ukraine in Russia on its coast with Japan, with their Bear bombers being blown up, part of their nuclear triad. So imagine if that happened in America, and imagine if Russia had given Mexico the drones to do it. So all of this is NATO trying to suck the United States directly into full conflict. They've got a 250,000-person army, conscription starting up in parts of Europe, a descendant of, quote, peacekeeping force to Ukraine, really calling an invasion force a peacekeeping force. And then now, as I predicted, it was the next move, NATO claims that Russia is going into the zero phase or 0 hour, and that NATO's now putting out propaganda the last 48 hours that Russia has pre-positioned undercover Spetsnaz special forces all over Europe preparing terror attacks and mass casualty events, and that Russia is preparing to attack Europe proper, which of course is completely insane to do that offensively. And so that fits the pattern of the preparation for false flags that will then be blamed on Russia as the pretext to invoke the articles in NATO that brings NATO directly into war. And then if the United States is still part of NATO, that will drag us directly into war with Russia that will quickly escalate into thermonuclear war in every major war game there is. That's why I agree with Elon Musk and Senator Lee that it's time for us to get out of NATO.
Immediately. If you take 3 steps back, so Europe has no reason to fight Russia at all. Europe has every reason to cooperate with Russia, at least on energy, but on a lot of things probably. It refuses. Russia's now formed an alliance, probably permanent, with China. And so, and Ukraine, of course, can't win. They don't have the manpower. They never could. So if you're escalating the war at this point, if you're promoting the war at this point, it seems to me your goal is to destroy Europe. And I think that's kind of always been the goal, to destroy Europe and the United States.
Well, as you stated, it has been the policy in the United States since the 50s, right through Nixon, right through Reagan, right through Herbert Walker Bush, right until just the last 5 years or so, to split China from Russia.
Of course.
And that is a very good policy. And you have China that is actually expanding all over the South China Sea, just cut off 95% of rare earth minerals to the world, including the U.S. Serious act of war, absolutely vital in everything we do. For folks that don't know, nothing works. Cell phones, computers, avionics and aircraft, everything, satellites is based on those. That's another question. How is China allowed to position itself for 95% plus control of rare earth minerals? That's a serious act of war. So their expansion is taking islands, the Philippines, taking drilling rigs, off the coast of Vietnam. All that's happening. They just put a communist government, or trying to fully, in South Korea. So China is on the move, and everything should be focused on them. It is a strategic blunder of biblical proportions to be roped into the Soros-NATO war. But NATO and the EU Unelected Commission has said for years that Europe's demographics and finances are the worst of any first world nation or sector. And so they say their business model is a 20 to 30-year war, conventional with Russia, that they believe will allow them to stay on a war economy and will finally break Russia, and then they will break Russia into 5 parts. That's official EU Commission policy. It's totally delusional. Russia's outproducing weapons 3 to 1, has 3 times the troops in the field and only gearing up. And so in the face of that delusional plan, similar to Napoleon's or Hitler's with Operation Barbarossa in 42, Europe is trying to double down again and sucking us in. But when all the real strategists and even all their think tanks say this wouldn't work, then the question is, why is the unelected commission and the U.S. neocons and left fully supporting this commitment to total
Because they want to destroy Christian civilization. That's why.
Yes,
that's why they got behind the First and Second World Wars, and it's why the lesson that they taught us in school was that it's dangerous to have a big white Christian country, which is not, actually. And they've systematically tried to destroy those countries, and they've succeeded.
And Russia is a very Christian nation, very pro-Western, and the left hates that. And so now they exactly, how do they turn over the chessboard when the Hollywood satanic globalist BlackRock elite are failing? Is you kamikaze the Russians and America and Europe into a giant climactic war while the globalists sit back and watch us all kill each other.
That's totally right. I think that's totally right. Why are we participating in it? Why would the U.S. government ever send long-range missiles? Why would basically, if we send those munitions to Ukraine, we're at open war. We've been at war with Russia for 3.5 years, as you know, but that would just be open war. Why would we go along with that? What is going on?
It's sleepwalking into Armageddon. Well, Europe's demographics and financial system means the unelected EU will collapse in the next few years. It's politically unpopular. So the political reason is they believe a war will keep them in power, and it's delusional. That's the last refuge of tyrants when they're falling, is to take the country to war to try to maintain domestic control. But again, at a spiritual level, it's absolute Satanism. It's absolute death cult, death wish, that if the globalists can't maintain control, they'll just drag us into the grave of history with themselves. And like so many tyrannies, they are going like the elephant graveyard or boneyard to Russia to die.
Why would the U.S. government continue to recognize Zelensky, who's an unelected dictator who's worked for years to destroy Christianity in Ukraine, which is a Christian country and has always been? Why would he be invited to the White House this week? I don't understand. He does not have a Democratic mandate. He's not an elected leader. He's a murderer. They've sold our weapons to some of the worst terror groups in the world, and we're treating him like he's a head of state. Like, why are we doing that?
And just 3 weeks ago, he was back at the White House, and Trump then posted Truth Social. And I love Trump overall, but Trump started doing a 180 from saying we need to get out of this to saying, well, we're out of it, but we'll sell whatever weapons to Europe you want. And I feel like Ukraine's going to win, and maybe not just get back its territory, but get more territory, meaning Russia, which is an extremely provocative and escalatory statement to Russia. And we know that Putin agreed actually to the framework of what Trump wanted, but Zelensky and NATO have refused. And so we have to ask the calculus of why the president, who's Mr. Peace Prize, has done a great job helping in 7 other conflicts, which I totally support. Why is he suddenly changing course, Tucker? You know him a lot better than I do.
So did you know that before the current generation, chips and fries were cooked in natural fats like beef tallow? That's how things used to be done, and that's why people looked a little slimmer at the time and ate better than they do now. Well, Masa Chips is bringing that all back. They've created a tortilla chip that's not only delicious, it's made with just 3 simple ingredients. A, organic corn. B, sea salt. C, 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That's all that's in it. These are not your average chips. Masa Chips are crunchier, more flavorful, even sturdier. They don't break in your guacamole. And because of the quality ingredients, they are way more filling and nourishing, so you don't have to eat 4 bags of them. You can eat just a single bag, as I do. It's a totally different experience. It's light, it's clean, it's genuinely satisfying. I have a garage full, and I can tell you they're great. The lime flavor is particularly good. We have a hard time putting those down. So if you want to give it a try, go to Masa Chips, M-A-S-A, chips.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker for 25% off your first order. Prefer to shop in person? In October, Masa is going to be available at your local Sprouts supermarket. So stop by and pick up a bag before we eat them all. And we eat a lot. Why the attraction to Zelensky? Why does our foreign policy class or donor class have this fixation on Zelensky? He's a hero. By the way, I've tried to interview him like 20 times. He refused to do an interview with me, but he's everywhere in the United States, basically American at this point. What's the appeal there?
I think it's the money laundering appeal and the fact that that's where most of the money laundering's still able to go on, since Trump and Doge and Elon shut down a lot of the graft in USAID and the EPA and Department of Energy. That clearly that is a place where they can launder money, and where they can go over there and be like rock stars in Kiev and be have all the prostitutes. The rest of it, reportedly, it's Sodom and Gomorrah over there. The women are just partying, while the men, boys, and old men go off to die. It's a very very sick situation, and just the height of decadence. We've heard the quote of Marie Antoinette, which they never proved she said it, where they're about to storm the Bastille, the start of the French Revolution, and they say the peasants are all starving. They're begging for grain, they're begging for wheat, and she says, "Let them eat cake." And then you saw what happened. Well, this is literally let them eat cake while our country's infrastructure falls apart, while millions die from fentanyl, while crime is rampant in the streets. We have all this money being sent over to Ukraine. And look, I don't like sending money to Israel. I'm not anti-Israel in general. I'm not against the existence of Israel, but that sucks all the oxygen out of the room. And all people talk about is the 50,000 dead Gazans in October 7th, where clearly Netanyahu stood down. That should be investigated. But what about the million plus conservatively dead in and around Ukraine? And what about its potential and now probability on the current trajectory of escalation to lead into full world war and nuclear war? That, to me, is why it's absolutely the front and center issue. And the TV cameras are all turned on Gaza, which is fine, but the scale of Ukraine and its potential danger is in a whole nother league.
It is, isn't it? That's my sense. Why is no one saying that?
Well, I mean, I notice you get called an anti-Semite, which is absolutely preposterous and ridiculous. And it's why the Israel lobby, both AIPAC and the ADL, are such jokes now and being...
Well, that's a campaign run out of Israel, which is a foreign country, to slander me and others. I just don't want to go to war with Iran. It's that simple.
But see, you're consistent. You apologize. You bought into the propaganda decades ago. I remember about 15 years ago, you came to see me in Austin, and you were kind of doing your tour of your own, your apology tour that you came up with, which I admire. I made mistakes too and done that. And you said, I'm done. I was lied to about WMDs. You said, hey, Building 7, when we first talked about that, I've really woken up that I was drinking the Kool-Aid, and I'm done. And you've consistently, for 15 years now or longer, have basically the same policies I'm for. And when I'm against Israel pulling us into war with Iran, it's not because I hate Jews. It's because we understand how dangerous it is and how out of control it is, and how Netanyahu's wanted this for 25 years and helped found Hamas or fund Hamas and all of this. And they just put Al-Qaeda in charge of Syria. So again, and you're also not being anti-Ukrainian or anti,
Well, I feel so sorry for the Ukrainians. They got completely screwed by the West, as usual.
Exactly. So you're consistent that you don't want offensive wars with the U.S. involved, and that China is literally saying, prepare for total war and expanding into the Caribbean and trying to take the Panama Canal. We don't want war with China either. But if we're tied up in all these wars, we don't have peace through strength. All hands should be on deck for China. Everything should be mobilized for China. Every real analyst knows that. And so you're here with serious policy, serious research, serious background, saying we can't be in Netanyahu's sandbox, and then blowing up more countries and shipping the refugees.
It's an irrelevant country.
It's irrelevant.
9 million people with no resources. Everyone loves Jerusalem and Bethlehem. That's great. But the country itself means absolutely nothing. It's like Malawi. Why are we spending all of our time talking about this irrelevant country? It's like bizarre.
And that's why I brought it up is because we need to talk about it, in my view, in the real context, that the ultra right wing, that thinks everything's Israel, all roads lead to Israel. I saw you talk about this a few weeks ago. It's sick. It's crazy. It's not a defense of Israel.
No, of course not.
It's a defense of reality. We have to somehow only spend 10% of our time on Israel. Right. I mean, right now, and here I am doing it, but you have to do it. Instead of literally, I think in talk radio and liberal blogosphere and everywhere, I think it's like 90% is on Israel right now, and it's sick.
I know.
And I think Netanyahu likes it. He loves being the center of attention.
Of course, and loves feeling hated and, I'm so persecuted and all this stuff. It's like, I totally agree with you. And it's also unhealthy. And then, it does get to a place where people become hateful, and that, that's not good for anybody.
Well, if you look at it, the Lavon affair and the USS Liberty and some other things, Israel is very capable with different leadership it's had to stage false flags and drag us in. And if you really study 9/11, and at the end of the day, it was an alliance of Israeli neocons and U.S. neocons that bare minimum used an attack to build a larger attack around it for the Project for the American Century to take us into the Pax Americana War in the Middle East. And that's where we, $10 trillion later, or whatever it is, I think it's 11 trillion or more, are in this.
That's not a theory. I was there. I mean, I shared office space for the Project for New American Century. I worked at the Weekly Standard. So yes, that is just a fact. That happened. I don't think, if we're reaching the point where people's memories are so bad that counts as a conspiracy theory, then I just give up. Does Wikipedia call that a conspiracy theory?
No, but they call it neocons, or if you talk about neocons, that's anti-Semitic. Well, yeah, about half the neocons were Jewish, but the fact is they're crazy warmongers that believe the end justifies the mean. And you want to get further back, Trotsky got kicked out by Stalin, and he ran to Mexico. And Stalin had him hunted down and killed by an assassin with an ice axe. And then all of his top people came to the U.S., became the neocons, and said, we're going to take over the Republican Party, and we're going to go to war with Russia to get back control of what's ours. Because Trotsky was supposed to replace Lenin when he died, but instead he got kicked out. And so it is a fact, historical fact, even the Wall Street Journal 20 years ago wrote about it, that when you look at the Weekly Standard and you look at the neocons, they are literal Trotskyite communists from the Russian derivation that set up a neoconism. And then you had Cheney and Rumsfeld and others that weren't Jewish, but were large parts of the neocon system. And so that's why Netanyahu plugged into that so nicely, because he came out of the neocons in the 1970s and 80s.
No, that's all just a fact. That's not, there's nothing hidden or creepy about it, about saying it.
Yeah, and if the British had come over here with a group of communists and taken over the Republican Party, I'd be against it. My last name's Jones. It's just, it is what it is, and it's out of control.
No, I know.
And now people are awake to it, and that's a good thing. And we need to dismantle, undo any foreign influence. I'm just simply saying that's a big problem, but nothing compared to communist China. But it becomes the biggest problem when the Israel lobby doesn't want the pivot to Asia that's taken us 16 years to do and still hasn't happened. And instead, the same lobbies are involved with Soros and the left allied, the neocons, wanting a war with Russia that empowers China. It is strategically a total disaster. No one even debates that at all the top think tanks, as you know. This is 101, folks. This is absolute total disaster.
Literally.
It's why the dollar's getting weak. It's why BRICS is getting stronger. This is what you do if you want to destroy America. And I agree with Tucker. At the end of the day, it's because the evil forces above this want to destroy the West.
Here's something you may not have known. Back in 2015, the Congress of the United States repealed something called the Country of Origin Labeling Act. Now, why is this relevant to you? Well, it means, among other things, that when you buy beef at the supermarket that says made in the USA, it may not actually be. In fact, it could be, likely is, from a foreign country. It means that repackaging foreign meat can be enough to get the Made in USA designation. It's a lie. It's an absolute lie. Most people don't even know what's happening. So how can you be sure that the meat you're eating is from the United States and has been raised with the highest quality standards and is the tastiest? It's truly made here. Well, it's simple. You can go to our friends at Merriweather Farms. Merriweather Farms is an American small business. It's based in Riverton, Wyoming. We know the people who run it, and they're great people. And they have great meat. They ship the highest quality meat raised free from growth hormones and antibiotics directly to your doorstep. It's delicious. We eat it a lot, including at this table. These are Americans. These are American-made products. They're the real deal. Again, we eat that meat at this table from Riverton, Wyoming. They're the best. MerriweatherFarms.com. Use the discount code Tucker10 and you get an extra 10% off. Again, that's Merriweather Farms, MERIWETHER, farms.com. It's worth it.
Christian civilization, of course. The first, second world wars were that was it. That's not pro-Hitler. I'm anti-Hitler, just for the record, very anti-Hitler. But the effect was to destroy like the most beautiful civilization ever created by far in history, all history. And this is the final blow. It seems very, very obvious to me, and we should be aware of that as we proceed. When gold crosses 4,000, I don't understand why that's not like front page news. Like, because to me, that maybe, I mean, you're better at this than I, but that means that the cumulative effect of everything we're discussing has been to destroy the US dollar.
When you read what even all Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, the IMF, the World Bank, the Exim Bank, it's not even debated they've decided in the last really 3-4 years that they're going to deal with monetary debt worldwide, both corporate, governmental, individual, with inflation. And Trump recognizes that and has said, fine, we'll have inflation with expansion and expansion of goods. And all the economists agree that that will have some pain, but overall will be something that could actually be successful. If you have the leftist UN, WEF, Great Reset, post-industrial carbon tax plan, you will have stagflation, which is high inflation, but a ongoing recession, depression, which is the perfect storm of hell on earth. And that is what the UN and the globalists directly want, to create a worldwide serf system of more manageable slaves in their official policies, break down the borders with first world and third world, not to rise up the third world economically, but to lower everybody down to a level. Then the globalists say they'll have small, compact city-states and rural city-states like the Hunger Games, where they have medicine, technology, and everything, and then just basically fly above us, and we're going to be put into a agrarian situation with a much reduced world population. So that's the official Great Reset, post-industrial, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 policy. And there's nothing more frustrating than reading all their policy books and the legislation and the treaties, and then seeing it carried out, which is the purposeful, planned depopulation of the earth through slow starvation and resources being restricted, and the conflict that comes with when resources are constricted. And then I see Trump massively increasing energy production, and then going to Saudi Arabia and having them increase energy production, which hurts U.S. oil production, but helps the world in general lower inflation and get real money in the hands of people. That's the biggest benefit. And then no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, all the things he's doing, 10 trillion committed in investment, several trillion already here. All of that is exactly what you do if you want to help the people and build a middle class and a sustainable, thriving country and world, building back our morale and nationalism and the family and God. Trump gets an A+ on all of that, but he needs to get more on message and not say, oh, the left are idiots, they don't know how to manage things. No, the globalists admit that they want a post-industrial world. That's John Kerry said last year, we got to cut off half the farming or people will starve. That's what causes starvation, obviously. And they want to cut the resources off so they can manage and control people. That's why in the Netherlands and in Ireland and in Sri Lanka, all over, they're cutting off massive amounts of the farming, taking some of the best farming land ever and saying, sorry, your cows pass gas, it's bad for the earth. That is deliberate sabotage of the world economy to cause a collapse. Then the banksters can loan us more money, bring in a new cashless society, social credit score. That is the end game plan. And they talk about carbon lockdowns for the earth, where you'll be told when you can leave your house. During carbon lockdowns, you'll be told when you can leave your 15-minute city. This is a very totalitarian hellscape, dystopia, sci-fi vision they have. And Trump is 95%, I would say, in opposition to it, even with his limited understanding. He by limited, I mean he's smart about the economy, but doesn't understand it's deliberate. And he goes, oh, they're really dumb. These are the worst ideas I ever heard. Is that why they're all unified, decades getting them in place? Is that why the big banks and corporations are exempt? No, it's feudalism. We don't have resources. We don't have rights. They all have the rights. That is the purest form of economic control. It's the oldest form of government. It's been the most common form of government in world history. And the UN and the globalists say we're bringing back feudalism. Neo-feudalistic capitalism is what they call it. But really, it's just slavery. And that's what we're opposing. And that's what the relaunch of the West is about. That's what Elon Musk understands. And that's why this is a do-or-die existential threat to everybody. People should just get on board and get hardcore, or be absolute feudal slaves if you're lucky.
How do you get on board?
You understand and you research the Great Reset, and you research Larry Fink, now the head of the World Economic Forum. You realize 3 years ago, the UN made the World Economic Forum co-equal to its governing body and its councils. And you understand, if you actually read their writings, the future isn't human. People are bad. Families are bad. We're going to have these AI gods that take over. I mean, it is just the wildest thing that Lex Luthor in a comic book couldn't come up with. This is beyond supervillain stuff. This is real super demon stuff. And you have to identify the attack you're under and that it's deliberate. Then you have to mobilize and get good legislatures and governors and others elected. Populists are getting elected all over the world. People are really waking up to this. And we have now these attorney generals winning court cases in Texas and other places where BlackRock tried to come in and say, we're not going to have any investment in your state if you don't get rid of fossil fuels. And then Texas sued Kim Paxton and said this is racketeering. This is illegal. They won the court cases. It is. Because Larry Fink says this is about control. And we're going to control you. And they control us by managing our money. Well, now a bunch of states are pulling their pension funds from BlackRock. And now Larry Fink is singing a different tune, at least publicly, and they've pulled some of their DEI and some of the ESG stuff, which is the corporate governance. When you wonder why, whether you're in Australia, Germany, or the U.S. or Canada, it's the same policies, the same programs, the same drag queen story times, the same take a knee during the national anthem. All of this comes out of them literally trying to demoralize us, because if we have a free, open society, people around the world are going to want that, and you can't have a control group where there's some free, prosperous Western nations, everybody else slaves under BlackRock and the globalists. That's why you've got to take down the West so there's nowhere to run.
I think that's exactly right. You can't have different systems, radically different systems in a globalized world. Can you?
No, and so exactly. So there's a fight between, do you want the 1984 civilization or do you want the 1776 civilization? 1776 isn't going back. It's back to the future. It was the flower of the Renaissance and the greatest expression of hundreds and hundreds of years of the Great Awakening and of the Enlightenment. And so it's a continuation of that. We have to get back to the future, back to the avant-garde, back to what produces the most freedom, the most wealth. Classical liberalism of Thomas Jefferson. Now, modern liberalism is totalitarian, anti-family, anti-speech, anti-self-defense, anti-private property. Modern liberalism is a totalitarian, death cult, transhumanist, poison to sabotage human civilization. It's a depopulation program. 1776 is the ultimate, most successful push of humans to produce the very best atmosphere of liberty and freedom and competition and empowerment. The problem is, in the cycle, as you know, hard times make strong men make good times make weak men make bad times. The problem is that, are we good enough? It was Benjamin Franklin, right? If they finally, years later, after the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, finally got the Bill of Rights done, and he was walking out, and the newspaper reporter said, "Mr. Franklin, do we now finally have our nation?" And he said, "Yes, you have your republic if you can keep it." And he said, and so did Jefferson, he said, you got to have informed, involved, educated people. And Jefferson wrote about this constantly. He said, not just informed about math or Latin, but you got to have people that are farmers. You got to have, people that actually know how to skin a buck and run a trot line. He said, if you ever get people where they're not physically out there able to run and control their whole lives, the so-called education doesn't matter because they're just educated idiots. So you've got to have that multifacetedness where people have to really, and people think of that as work. No, it's empowering to really try to be what Thomas Jefferson talked about. And then when you go through what Jefferson went through, some of us have gone through similar things now, not to that extent, but close. Then you read Jefferson, you realize we're back in that same time of change and revolution again. It's our revolution. We have the ball. We're selling the best system. We have the proven track record. We're the good guys. And we've got to stand up and make the choices clear, plant our flag and say, this is the hill to die on, and we will win.
We've got a new partner. It's a company called Cowboy Colostrum. It's a brand that is serious about actual health, and the product is designed to work with your body, not against your body. It is a pure and simple product, all natural. Unlike other brands, Cowboy Colostrum is never diluted. It always comes directly from American grass-fed cows. There's no filler, there's no junk. It's all good. It tastes good, believe it or not. So before you reach for more pills for every problem that pills can't solve, we recommend you give this product, Cowboy Colostrum, a try. It's got everything your body needs to heal and thrive. It's like the original superfood, loaded with nutrients, antibodies, proteins, help build a strong immune system, stronger hair, skin, and nails. I threw my wig away and right back to my natural hair after using this product. You just take a scoop of it every morning in your beverage, coffee, or a smoothie, and you will feel the difference every time. For a limited time, people who listen to our show get 25% off the entire order. So go to cowboycolostrum.com, use the code Tucker at checkout, 25% off when you use that code Tucker at cowboycolostrum.com. Remember, you heard it here first.
The way to derail that kind of response, that kind of consciousness, is by creating like total chaos in your country. And the second that happens, the second it's dangerous to drive on I-95 or I-5, then people can't think clearly at all. And they just become purely reactive.
Or have COVID lockdowns.
or COVID lockdowns.
And put masks on little kids.
Exactly. And I think you've described the Trump record right. Like, moving in the right direction, flaws, but moving in the right direction. The way to derail all of that is not the midterm elections. It's some kind of civil strife. Do you think that's coming?
Well, Russia was right to lead off with. I didn't know we were going to lead off with, but I think that was the most important thing. We didn't really talk much before this. And the next place I wanted to go was the Podesta plan.
What is the Podesta plan?
Well, when I talk about this, I get chills because in August of 2020, Breitbart wrote about it, the Daily Caller wrote about it, but the New York Times wrote about it first. And Podesta does this big Democrat Party war game.
Which Podesta? John
Podesta.
Former White House Chief of Staff, yep.
Absolutely. And then later the climate czar for Biden, or divvying up the climate money, stealing it. He comes out of this huge report. They published the whole thing. And I'm reading like this, it was like 70 pages or something. And they say, if Trump wins in 2020, this is in August, months before, which they were able to steal it, so he didn't. He said, we're going to have Western states secede. We're going to have blue cities secede, but we'll start with the Western states, California, Oregon, and Washington. And we'll call it over migrants and sanctuary cities and healthcare at first, which they're now doing. I'm getting chills because it's all happening. Like you go to a play and you're reading, the next act is this. And Romeo and Juliet, it's all right there. And they say, if he wins, we will say it's illegitimate. We will have blue states first secede and that they're going to be sanctuary cities for the illegals. Then when there's civil unrest, which they'll furnish, Trump will send the National Guard, and then there'll be a massacre of the migrants. And then we will kick off a civil war. Then all the blue cities across the country will secede. Then New York, Massachusetts, and others will secede. And we'll form what we call the Western Alliance. And we will then, the U.S. military will be with us because they control the generals. People that don't think otherwise, that was Trump's big mistake he found out. Most of them are globalists at the top, not your enlisted, they're great people. And that they would then form a military alliance if Trump didn't stand down, and they would march on D.C. And then they made a movie produced 2 years ago, they released last year, called Civil War, that is the last act of the Podesta plan. That's in a 2+ year civil war, race-based. At the end, they go and, the black female sergeant kills the Trumpian figure in the White House. And that's because evil white people are out massacring brown people across the country. So the U.S. military reconvenes under Gavin Newsom's command type. And then they come in and then they take over the country, and then they re-educate all the evil right-wingers and evil white people. And then I saw Gavin Newsom on Colbert about 3 weeks ago, and he said, we're forming, and they hold a map up, the Western Alliance, and it's for migrants and healthcare, and we're getting ready to go on offense. And Colbert goes, he does that demon face, he goes, and the whole crowd goes, because they're all read in on this. We have countless videos at rallies in Austin and Denver and New York where the left goes, soon Trump and Homan will kill a bunch of us. And when they do, that's when the uprising begins. So they're all read in on this. They all know it is the Podesta plan. They all know it's the Western Alliance. They all know it's the Western offense. And so you have the Soros NGO-funded No Kings events, like they had on the 14th of June, when the guy that worked for Tampon Tim went around reportedly, killing senators and state reps there at the state level. He later told the FBI and wrote a letter saying, no, I did this for the Democrats as a false flag, so that Tim Walz could, play victim. He supposedly had a bunch of accomplices, but they didn't help him. They caught his wife and a bunch of people with passports, guns, and money, fleeing the area. But within 2 hours of the attack, they had his roommate on TV saying, he loved Trump and Alex Jones. Isn't that interesting? Just all very scripted. But my point is, now you have the No Kings this weekend. And we now have Schumer on Monday went on MSNBC and said, we need to have a forceful uprising. We need to have a forceful uprising. What's the exact quote? My producer's over there. So this is chilling. And he said he wants to keep the shutdown going at least until next Saturday, the 18th, to get the maximum amount of anger that they can get. You have Hakeem Jeffries saying similar things. So they're not even hiding any of this anymore.
So the idea is to whip their supporters into a frenzy, basically do BLM 5 years later.
Yes, but on a much wider scale. And so when you have, here I'll put the actual quote, when you actually have, as I have it posted on my X Law Shows, when you have these guys openly saying this, I mean, this is as big a deal as it gets. I mean, this is just,
when Senator Chuck Schumer,
for forceful uprising, I want to get it exactly right. Forceful uprising.
Chuck Schumer called for a forceful uprising?
Forceful uprising because of the indictment of Letitia James on mortgage fraud.
But I mean, it sounds like Letitia James committed mortgage fraud.
Well, they're only gone after in Virginia so far. New York, as you know, is even worse. And what's crazy is we have all the public documents. Total fraud, like 4 residences as primary residence, residences that she says are single-family homes, and there's 5 people, 5 apartments in it. I mean, this is serious fraud. So everything she accused Trump of doing baselessly, she's now doing, and she's the chief.
Well, that's always the way, Alex, isn't it?
Exactly. Total inversion. So everything they've accused Trump of is what they're actually doing. And then she's been caught, and now they're whining. CNN the other day said, well, everybody engages in mortgage fraud. Well, I don't.
No, I don't engage in mortgages, and much less fraud. No, but it is always just like when Bill Kristol accused me of backing an ethno-state. I was like, no, I'm not the one who backs the ethno-state. So Chuck Schumer saying a forceful uprising is called, he wants a forceful uprising.
He called this weekend for a forceful uprising, close quote, on MSNBC. He goes, we need to have a forceful uprising to this. Similar to his, you've reaped the whirlwind thing, you're going to get it. So they're obviously agitating for more violence. You see the governor candidate in Virginia, after the AG candidate, who's been in the lead, said, I want to kill these state reps. I want to kill their children. I want to kill cops. And then the other gubernatorial candidate asked the lady, will you decry him calling for killing members of the legislature and their children by name? And she said, nope.
Abigail Spanberger.
Yeah,
I think it was a CIA officer at one point.
It's totally insane. And she sits there with this bizarre look on her face. I mean, these people are doing this on purpose, and it's called the Podesta Plan. And so I'm sure the Pentagon knows about this. The problem is most of those top generals are globalists. People that don't know, they've been put through all the schools. They don't get promoted unless they're globalists. Most of our generals have been bad since the 90s. They teach them at the Army War College. I've read these reports that literally America needs to end. We need to be part of a world government. The communism is good.
So let's just narrow it down. If you really believe that widespread civil unrest preparatory to civil war is coming, if Chuck Schumer, one of the senior senators, is calling for it, then you really need to make sure the military is under control, that it's not politicized, that it's not, that it reports to the president as it's constitutionally mandated to do. Like the military is the key, correct?
Yes, and I loved Hegseth's speech, and that's the right direction, but we need more of that. And a lot of the generals were rolling their eyes, giggling, putting their heads in their hands. And I guarantee you just go, okay, who's that guy? Look at his record. He's going to be a commie, a leftist.
But wouldn't you, it would be almost an emergency situation. You would need to make certain that the general officers in your military were loyal to the Constitution.
Exactly. And the left and the corporate media act like if Trump wants prosecutions, he's not supposed to do that. No, he's a chief law enforcement officer. We elected him for that. We elect one man in the general election. All of us have an ability to vote for only one position. And so it's not Trump's right. It's his duty. It's only the president that makes a special oath, not to just protect, preserve, and defend, but protect and defend like the rest of the military do, but to protect and preserve and defend. He's supposed to preserve the republic. So 400 troops to Chicago, 200 to Portland. This is nothing. They're openly waiting to gear up the violence. Then they're going to false flag, I believe, some of the illegal aliens or traditional black college, which I predicted this before. They evacuated the traditional black colleges a month ago. And said,
I didn't even know that. Why?
And said Charlie Kirk's supporters are coming to kill you. Then it turned out it was a false flag. They admitted fake calls. That's the left, because Carville and Podesta and all of them, John Podesta, have said on TV, now that they've gone live with the Podesta Plan when Trump was president-elect, and then once he got in, there's hundreds of videos of them all on there saying, Carville. Now listen, it's 1776 part 2. I can't really do his voice. Can't do a Louisiana voice, sorry. He said, black people got to be ready. Trump's coming to kill you with Tom Homan. You got to have your guns and be ready. The View, we got to be ready to fight and die. They're coming to kill us. On CNN, they'll be sitting there debating, yeah, Trump's coming with the military to kill black people and Hispanics. And then I think, well, where could there be a group of Hispanics, an illegal alien demonstration or something, then somebody from a parking garage mows a bunch of them down, blames it on some Trump supporter, or where is a bunch of black folks by themselves, traditional black college? So I've been saying that for 8-9 months, seeing their programming, how they're saying Trump's going to kill masses of Hispanics and blacks. Well, where can they do a false flag? Those two places and a few others. Then a month ago, they evacuated most of the black colleges for a week, saying Charlie Kirk supporters are coming to kill you, trying to piggyback on that and create this illusion that Trump supporters blamed black people for this. No, we blame, if you believe the official story, some trans supporter cult members. So absolutely, going back to your point, there needs to be Pentagon mobilization. Trump needs to address the nation on this, talk about the Podesta plan. Any of his crew, I can send it to him, can put a reel together like he did when they said no South African farmers are being killed. He just showed a 5-minute video, it devastated him. I can send them a 10-minute clip of hundreds of clips of top Democrats saying Trump's coming to kill the migrants, he's coming to kill the blacks, we got to rise up, we got to have a civil war. And then I can show the quotes from the Podesta plan laying this out. This is the official Democrat Party battle plan with production movies, $350 million budgets, Civil War, promoting it. Now the new movie, Battle After Battle, with DiCaprio, where it's set in a fictional fantasy land in the U.S. where they have this hot sex and it's so awesome, and they go around with plastic explosives and dynamite machine guns killing ICE officers all over the U.S. and freeing Hispanics from concentration camps. So Hollywood's not, making its constant Holocaust movies about World War II. They've moved on to the new Holocaust that isn't happening. The first one did, of, just Tom Homan just machine gunning Hispanic women and raping them in dungeons. I mean, it's like Machete Kills, where there's Don Johnson shooting pregnant Hispanic women in the stomach with deer rifles. Didn't happen, folks, but Hollywood is providing this background right on time for these uprisings there's planning, because the globalists are losing. This is their last big move. And I'll say it again, the Podesta plan, the Podesta plan, we've got to get the Podesta plan that we're now living in the launch of in front. So Trump's declared Antifa, domestic terrorist, international terrorist. He said they're going after Soros, which I know the DOJ is. That's great. But this is the Democratic Party running it. That's why they say Antifa doesn't exist, because we got documents 10 years ago through Friends of Democracy and Alexander Soros, where they command them in each city, give them orders, where to attack, what to do. It is all 100% specifically road mapped out, open and shut, racketeering, domestic terrorism, send them to prison with the documents we have.
I mean, since it's all happening out in the open, how do you, so once that starts, it's pretty hard to pull back from it. Violence has its own logic, and it makes people totally unreasonable, and it does so generationally, and it's just like the worst thing ever. How do you stop that?
You have all these entitled illegal aliens. You see the videos every day where ICE has to wait outside the state courthouses or jails when they're releasing some guy with huge rap sheet, been deported before, and his wife and baby will be in the car. And then the ICE comes over, like 2 or 3 of them, and says, hey, get out of the car. We know who you are. They go, no, no, no. Then a mob comes over and starts attacking ICE. We've seen these countless videos. The underdog is ICE. They've got less than 10,000 agents with 20+ million illegals just under Biden here. And to answer your question, the left is so entitled that these illegal aliens aren't illegal alien MS-13 people from El Salvador. No, they're Maryland man. And so Trump has to address it and explain to people that these illegal aliens, the Islamicists, the left, the Black Lives Matter, the Trantifa, the tranny Antifa, they are all in one big coalition. They all communicate with their rhetoric and their attack plans, and they're all saying that as soon as they have the catalyzing event where a bunch of their people get massacred, it's in movies, it's in the Podesta plan. I've got countless videos. You see them all the time. We're out at the rally. They go, you just wait till Trump kills a bunch of us. And then once we have that pretext, even MSNBC said our constituents want blood. They want a triggering event. I mean, they're just like, once the triggering event comes, you're all dead. We're burning everything down and we're coming to your houses. And Antifa and these other groups have targeted lists that have come out of whose houses they're going to. Governors, talk show hosts, everybody. Tucker is on the list. I'm on the list. We've caught them outside my house, folks. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. I haven't stayed at my house in months. It's gotten that bad. I mean, I stay there.
You haven't stayed at your house?
I don't stay at my house anymore. I stay there sometimes. My children don't, because I mean they're there. It's targeted, and as soon as they kick this off, there are people that are first on the list that they're planning to come get. Because I'm not trying to, you know this, Tucker, you're smart. When they really launch this, it's not going to be them knocking your door down in D.C. It's going to be a group of meth heads rolling up with Molotov cocktails. And they've got these undercover videos in Austin and Portland and everywhere, hours of them, and it shows inside these warehouses where they give them drugs and money and food and the NGOs, and they're just all in there ramped up and ready with guns and weapons, and then just as soon as they give them the green light, they are going to just pile in their vans and come to kill. Well, just think of Helter Skelter times 10,000. Think of the Manson family times 10,000. They've got Manson family groups in every major city and most small towns, literally, that would make the cast of Chainsaw Massacre look like choir boys ready to go.
Right. Yeah, of course. I mean, these are the shock troops of whatever, the nihilists, the atheists, of course. That's always the way it works. I don't see that anything's been done about any of this.
Well, I think Trump is smart, but he's so insulated his whole life, in golf courses and the presidency and all that. He's gone through a lot of hell, but he's insulated, seeing law and order around him, and has no idea what it's like for me personally. I mean, Austin, where I've lived since high school, used to be a beautiful, safe city. Everybody's houses get invaded. Everybody's cars get broken into. Our reporter in March just got executed in the parking lot of his apartments. And I've said 98% chance it'll be a Hispanic gangbanger or a black gangbanger, not because I'm being mean to Hispanics or blacks. Well, it turned out I was right on both. Mainstream media said, or legacy media, Jones puts out racist announcement, predicts Jamie White has been killed by some race-based gang of Hispanics.
So this guy got murdered, but the real problem is that you're a racist?
Yes, and then
the real problem is he got murdered.
Absolutely, and a mile from my office.
And who was it?
Well, it turned out I was right on both counts. So two of them were charged with murder, one, because they participated. One is Hispanic, and literally on his Facebook had Mexican flags and La Reconquista and Take Over America, Down with America. The other guy cut a rap song, black guy, about how he killed that Jamie White, that white guy, F him. So they were able to find them off their cell phone data, and they were driving a stolen car when they killed him in the parking lot. But the point was, my reporter was killed, and both the individuals charged with murder, one, the police said it's also racially motivated because they both talked about how they love killing that white guy. So we're told there's not these crime waves. We're told this isn't going on.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of I love to kill white people going on, and it's tolerated and celebrated.
Well, remember what happened with Charlie Kirk? I mean, tens of thousands of leftists just saying, kill his family, kill his wife, kill all the Republicans. And then take this attorney general candidate that's been in the lead, Jones, in Virginia. He said the same thing they keep saying. The same thing people said about Charlie Kirk's wife. Kill her and her kids and her parents because they're all racist. Because they
So he's in the kill the whites, as he said.
Well, he said, kill these legislators, and he said by their names, and kill their kids.
All white legislators.
Yeah, all white. He said, kill these white people and kill their kids, and then to teach their wife a lesson. So he says, we're literally going to leave your white women.
This guy's running for attorney general.
Yes.
And I think he's still getting, 45% of Democrats supporting him.
And they won't decry him. And the reason I go back to that, folks, is we've been so taught, it's totally a lie, that only whites can be tribal. All humans are tribal. And because whites
don't seem tribal at all.
I was about to say, since whites have had it bred out of us to not be tribal, we're like a dodo bird. True story dodo birds. They pull up at Galapagos Island. There's this giant bird twice the size of a turkey, huge amounts of meat on it, never had a natural predator. It just walks right up to sailors. They can just whack it on the head with an oar. And within a few years, there were no more dodo birds. Anybody's ever been around a sanctuary that has big fences around deer that have never been hunted, they just walk right up to you.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing. So that's how white Westerners are, is literally like deer being dumped out in northern Canada with wolf packs.
Yeah. I'm white. I don't feel tribal really at all. I never have thought that way. I mean, in fact, I've sort of tried not to think that way because I think it's, bad. It leads to division and war. But yeah, no, they're the only ones who are that way. Everyone else is totally tribal, openly tribal. They're encouraged to be tribal.
Well, that's because in the West, the Renaissance, it was about Christianity and technical skills and what you brought to the table and a meritocracy.
Yeah.
And so Christians are like, hey, we can bring in other groups if it's a meritocracy, which you can do.
Yeah.
And Charlie Kirk, the fake quotes are, black women can't fly planes, they're dumb. Said nothing even close to that. No, he said, we don't have a big enough pool of black women trying to be pilots. If we had a big enough pool and enough training, they're great, but you can't lower standards. That's not black women are dumb and can't fly planes. But that's what they do is they misrepresent us, and then they create this existential envy, the globalist trillionaire class, so that while we're all fighting with each other, divide and conquer, they can rule over us. It's that simple. Their big fear is the classic American system of meritocracy. But if you get rid of the meritocracy and just say, we're going to put this guy in who's an illegal alien in Iowa over a huge school district, and yeah, he doesn't even have a degree of any type. And then when he got busted with guns running from the police, the left came out and rioted and protested and said, we don't care if he doesn't have a degree. We don't care if he's a liar. We don't care if he's an illegal alien. We want an illegal alien with a criminal record who doesn't even have a high school degree being our superintendent of schools, one of the biggest school districts in the country. I mean, they're at war with meritocracy. They're at war with, there's meritocracy in the NFL and the NBA and in golf, because in sports is the final frontier they want to get rid of, because people can see it's about the whole world really is a meritocracy. And so there are people of every color and group that can excel, but you've got to actually excel. You get rid of meritocracy, civilization collapses. The modern West has been about meritocracy. And that is the unifier. You can have anything you want, you can be anybody you want, but you've got to be able to execute and perform it.
Once you get rid of that, then you just revert to tribalism.
Absolutely.
Then it's just, I'm promoting my cousin.
Yes.
Or let's have all my friends from, Delhi come here.
And I've got a bigger gang than you, and so we're going to be in charge. And then the gangs squat in the ruins of the once great civilization, just like when the Visigoths and Ostrogoths sacked Rome in 410. And then it all just collapsed and grew into wilderness in a few years, and everybody left it because it was just a big empty tomb.
Yeah, it's the Bombay train station with trees growing out of the windows. Yeah, no, I've seen it a lot around the world, and that can't happen here, but it feels like we're moving toward that very, very quickly. So how do you stop that?
You have to recognize that the Larry Finks and others think they're above the law. They think they're invincible. They've got their big...
It's more than that. I'm sorry. They hate us, actually. There is hatred. It's not just neglect. It's not just, I'm in it for the money. Larry Fink could probably have made more money without ESG, actually.
Oh, I agree. I was about to say.
So it's not it, but the point of ESG is to destroy the civilization. And what's the point there? It's not just so they can leave in their escape pod. It's because they hate the civilization.
Exactly. In fact, they're suicide bombers. They're economic, cultural suicide bombers. I was about to say, Larry Fink, one time I was flying in a private jet, somebody was flying with over Connecticut. They go, look, there's Larry Fink's giant compound. And you can see the big fences and the thousands of acres and, security guard stations. The point is, he thinks that he can wage war against us and that he's going to be insulated. He's got to be exposed. He's got to be spotlighted.
Of course.
And we've got to let him know that we're going to blame you. So you think you can replace Klaus Schwab because he's so unpopular? Well, you're going to be more unpopular than him. So I totally agree. We have to admit that they're waging war on us. And we have to mobilize.
They're doing it for it's not just to make money. I mean, I think the Sacklers are smart. They probably could have made money doing a lot of things, but instead it was selling poison to Appalachia. And at some point you got to think, well, they knew that, of course, they knew what they were doing, and they had to have taken a certain joy in killing all those people.
At the end of the day, in 1917, British intelligence working with a lot of Russian immigrants to New York put 100,000 men into Russia and sent Stalin's train of gold in. And they took them years to control the whole country, but they got control of the capital city. And then they just sent out the commissars to the peasants, thought they were being liberated from the czars and feudalism. And instead they said it was 20 times worse. And they just raped and killed and murdered tens of millions of them. And so at the end of the day, Whatever the deal is with the left, they want to kill Christian farmers, and they want to kill Christian white farmers. But you saw the UN, and
that is true. I spent a long time not wanting to admit to myself that that's true, but then you just look globally. What is this? Like, what connects everything? It's a hostility to that group. I don't know where that hostility comes from. It's a flawed group. All people are flawed. Every group is flawed. But that's on par, pretty peaceable group, actually, kind of nice people. Like, why the hatred? And I think it's Christianity. I really believe that.
And it's not just kill white Christians. That's the main target. Look at the Rwandan massacre, which the UN actually ran, if you study it, and the Clintons were there. And it was it was a minority of blacks that were Christian. Because they were Christian, they had all the prosperity and were successful. Yeah. And they all got exterminated and wiped out, a couple million of them. And now all over the world, they're pressuring.
Is that true? I didn't know that there was a religious component to the Tutsi.
It was the Christians got killed.
I didn't know that.
And the animists did it. Yeah, and the UN oversaw it. They put them in the refugee centers.
What?
Oh, yeah. The UN helped murder them all.
So the Tutsis were disproportionately Christian?
Yes, the minority group that was killed was disproportionately Christian.
Yeah, by the Hutus.
Yeah. And the Hutus were animists.
Why have I never heard that before?
That was what I had guessed on at the time it was going down and covered it, yeah.
That was 31 years ago. I didn't know that.
And then they acted like the Clintons were helping. No, the UN, this actually came out in reports even from the UN, they'd stick them in the refugee emergency center. They'd pull back at night and send in the animists to kill them. And then if some got out, the UN would machine gun them.
So I knew that there were a lot of Tutsis killed in churches, but I didn't realize that they were killed by non-Christians.
Oh, yeah. And the larger thing was...
Wow.
The larger thing was these big global corporations...
Blew my mind, Alex Jones.
They wanted... I wish it wasn't true. They wanted the rare earth minerals. So they just used... Right. Obviously, the animists never got any of that stuff they stole.
Of course.
And then the infrastructure all fell apart, just like, getting rid of the white rule of apartheid. Not saying apartheid's good, but now it's 10 times worse. Or Rhodesia, super wealthy. And then they get rid of all the white farmers. Where is it now? Zimbabwe inflation.
Yeah, poorest country in the world. Wow, that is absolutely wild. Why does no one ever... I first understood this began to understand during the Iraq War, where, it's had this massive Christian population, including in the Ba'athist government, in Saddam's government. There are tons of Christians there. And then, after 20 years of war, our war, all the Christians are gone. They're dead or they've moved or whatever.
Same thing now in Syria.
It's absolutely right. So when I figured that out, I started to think, Assad, I've never met Assad. I don't know him, but I know he's better than Al-Qaeda. And I know that he's protecting the Christians. And boy, if you say that, they go completely bonkers. I said that at Fox and they were like, I've never been so attacked. I don't know why it would be offensive to people to say, hey, I think we should watch out for the Christians. It's only offensive because their whole goal is to kill the Christians. That's why it's offensive.
Here's the bottom line, and you know this better than I. And for viewers, you need to understand this. This isn't rhetoric. The Western model promotes freedom and justice and property and diversity of ideas and mobility.
Yes.
The globalists want a technocracy, scientific world dictatorship in their own words. You've all know Harari, all of them. Go read their writings, Ray Kurzweil. And so having this model, as I said earlier, having something that's successful and free, no one's going to want what they're selling. So they have to get rid of it, and that's why we have to understand that. And we have to understand that, just like South Africa, no, we're not for apartheid, but it was predicted back when they got rid of it, when you had the communists and the Soros left literally coming in. Soros was involved, as you know, setting up communism and haves and have-nots and, nationalizing, everything and doing this, that it's now literal road warrior, hell on earth, everything collapsing. There's only like 40,000 farming families left. They're about to make them hand over the land in the middle of nowhere where their great-great-grandfathers hand-dug wells 400 years ago, great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great. And then the population exploded because the whites came in and literally built infrastructure. Then Africans from all over Africa and Asia, Indians all flooded there because the evil white people were there. And then South Africa becomes this huge thing buoying all of Africa. And then now you blow that up, it collapses. And now the globalists get the rare earth minerals and stuff. The population gets no infrastructure. They get nothing.
And it's just a colony of China at this point. It's a Chinese colony at this point.
Exactly. And then the West and Hillary blows up Gaddafi. as you know, invested everything with the West, came and apologized.
Yeah, NATO, the defensive alliance called NATO, defensive alliance, went and just murdered Gaddafi for no reason.
And for those that know, Gaddafi, the more you research him, a statesman, he literally lived in a tent. 98% of the state money coming in, the oil went to not just his people, Africa. And he was building real infrastructure and had a whole plan to link up with, and they came and killed him. And now all of Africa is collapsing because they blew up the South Point and the North Point. One's Gaddafi, the crazy colonel. The point was he was for the people. And down here was this. And now the globalists deliberately blow that up for destabilization.
Yeah. And the population will be moved here into Europe, as it already is being, in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, of course. I know I see it so clearly. And the funny thing is, they've been preemptively preparing us for this by doing this whole you're a white supremacist and, you're a racist. And when I first heard that, I never met a white supremacist in my life. I still don't know any, actually. And there are so few racists in this country, at least in my time, 50 years.
What it is they're labeling you.
What they're doing is they're taking your defenses down. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So you can't fight back. And I didn't get that. My first thought was, why do you see everything in racial terms? I didn't grow up thinking of things in racial terms at all, at all. And they do. And they do because they're targeting a group. Of course. And even now.
And when you're targeting a group, the first thing you do is teach the group they can't defend themselves.
It's so...
look at Europe. The cardinal sin are here. Defending yourself if you're white.
Yeah, I know. I wonder what that is.
Nick Sortor gets beat up by Antifa, and then he gets arrested in Portland.
Yeah.
So, but I was interrupting you. That's a really important point, that they label you and demonize you to their constituents so you can be attacked and everything taken away from you. First, you're dehumanized. And then anything they want to do, teach your kids transgenderism, open the borders up, you're automatically, if you stand up for yourself, a white supremacist. But then it causes what you talked about 6 months ago when we were in Florida and spoke, right after your dad had passed, God bless him. And that was, you're really worried about a false flag against Jewish groups or something that'll then be used, or a real attack, to really pass draconian speech restrictions.
Yeah.
And now, because everybody's been called white supremacists, because everybody, who stands up for traditional values has been called bad, a lot of them go, well, you know what? I do like Hitler then. And they don't have enough history or context.
Well, that's right.
So they don't understand, look.
Well, can you just pause on that? That is such a smart point. I just want to say Hitler was a total piece of shit, actually, and destroyed Europe. And why would you ever be for Hitler? I don't really get it. But by the way, we should not have armed Stalin. We were not. That was totally evil.
If you had to say Stalin for total kills of people was worse than Hitler.
Of course, obviously. But bottom line, let's just start here. You don't arm Stalin. Okay, yes. Period. I don't care what the calculation is. I'm not sending money or weapons to Joseph Stalin, who's genociding Christians.
And that's what Patton said. He wasn't pro-Hitler. He just said,
exactly,
you should never have armed Stalin.
But just because you shouldn't have ever sent a single dollar to Stalin doesn't mean that Hitler's good. Hitler was a total piece of shit, actually, in my opinion. And whatever he did, he destroyed Europe. He had a lot of help, but he did that. So I don't know why you can't, there's no space in between. Why do you have to go right from we shouldn't have armed Stalin, which we should not have done, and it's shameful that we did that. Anyone who calls it the good war, a war where you're arming Stalin, is not a good war. It's a shameful war that you should repent of. But you don't have to go right to I love Hitler, right?
Well, that's the thing is, you have competing totalitarian systems. You have the fascists, you have the communists.
Yeah, how about neither one? What the fuck?
Well, that's the thing. If you really read what Hitler himself wrote, it was all about a struggle. And he said, if all the Germans died doing this and failed, they deserve to die. And
so I just hate that right there. I hate sacrificing your own people, sending boys to go die in the defense of Berlin. You're losing. Why are you sending boys to go die? Fuck you. That's sorry.
No, but it was, you're actually learned though. So, and I don't mean the pop anti-Hitler stuff, but the real things. And so that's my issue is people are all black or white. They're all very monochrome. And here's an example. Do you want a black widow or a brown recluse to be put in your bed at night?
Neither.
Yeah,
but we don't have to. So that's the part that freaks me out. Why would we ever put ourselves in a position where it's arm Stalin, be close allies with Joseph Stalin, who murdered tens of millions of Christians.
Who's called Uncle Joe?
Yeah. Or be for Hitler? No. How about no and no? Like what? That's the worst and fakest choice in world history. Like you don't have to participate in that.
Absolutely. So that's the issue.
And so who's telling me I have to participate in that? 80 years later. Oh,
and then it gets worse. You have the ADL that keeps World War II going in our minds and now says white America is Hitler.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that's basically
the people who liberated the camp in our little town, really little town where we're sitting right now. There's a war memorial and a bunch of guys from this little town died fighting Hitler, which, I'm against Hitler. Okay. But like to then call that country responsible for what Hitler did. I mean, it's too much. I can't deal with it.
Oh, I mean, I've had like the ADL and stuff calling me a Nazi years ago. And I just sit there and I look at it. They know exactly what they're doing, and it's so cheap. And now they see what it's done. It's blown back on them, where now you've lied so much and demonized so many good people. Now a lot of people think, well, then Hitler must be great. Because if you're calling me Hitler and I'm not, well, then Hitler must be good because they're not educated. And I can tell you it's a long story, but my dad's dad was in North Africa and flew his 22 missions. And then once they took Italy, he volunteered for another 22 missions, B-17. And then they attacked their base. They got strafed and stuff. And he got a Purple Heart, so luckily couldn't captain. And then his group went up the next week and all got killed. And then finally he stopped volunteering. So they only made you do 22 missions. But he then, as an officer, got put in charge of food trains and, food supply. And he described to my dad, never really told me the stories about all the starving Italians he saw and the death and how it really freaked him out. And then later going into Germany and just dead bodies just from disease and starvation, dead bodies as far as you could see, blackbirds eating people's eyes out, just stuff out of total hell. And that was the reality he saw about World War II. Then my other grandfather was also the Army Air Corps. And, but long story short, he didn't see a lot of action because that a technical thing. The plane crashed. He almost died. So he luckily lived because he had problems early on and didn't see a lot of action.
How was World War I a win for anybody?
Well, the British did start that one.
Oh, of course. The one group that doesn't get the credit they deserve for making the world worse are the Brits.
Oh, even.
I'd like to see more anti-British conspiracy theories on Twitter, personally.
I can listen. Their system of manipulation is really the model. But the reason I was going on that long story was just real fast, because I told Kanye this a few years ago. Who cares about your grandfather? But my mom's dad was on one side of his family German, still spoke German. The other side, his mom was like old Texas family up in Dallas. They were wealthy, so they lived next to the inventor of refrigeration, and he worked for him as an apprentice when he was like a teenager. And later he went on to play UT football and then, went and joined the Army Air Corps for World War II. But he knew about the Germans. He wasn't in the Bund in the 30s, but went to some Bund meetings, the German-American Bund.
Yeah.
Hitler was on the radio, Time Magazine, a good guy. They were German. They went and, saw some of it. But towards the end of the war, the inventor of refrigeration, who's like a trillionaire today or $100 billion today, committed suicide. And he was German. And they had his family in Germany, and it sucked all the money out of him during the war and still killed his family at the end of it. So that was the kind of stories I got about Hitler from my grandfather, was inside baseball about how the German community in Dallas, the really rich ones that had German family in Germany, Hitler was literally holding them hostage and sucking all the money out of German Americans and then still killing them. Those are firsthand, from family experiences of what Hitler did. And these people that love Hitler have no idea what a monster he was.
Yeah, and I feel like we really missed our chance to exercise genuine American exceptionalism. You can say, in 1941 and say, we're just not for totalitarian systems. We're not going to support, it would have been in 1939. We're not going to do Lend-Lease. We're not going to support your totalitarian system, Joseph Stalin. Sorry. We're not for Hitler. We're not for Stalin. We're America. We're for us. That didn't seem to occur to anybody other than Charles Lindbergh and the majority of the American population that supported that plan. And they've been slandered ever since ever since.
And they kidnapped Lindbergh's baby and all of it to teach him. And so imagine the Russians and the Germans would have just spit each other out. They would have exhausted each other. The Soviet Union probably would have fallen. the Nazis would have fallen, I would imagine. We could have gone in there with just an expeditionary force at the end of it and cleaned it all up as liberators, but instead we got right in the middle of it.
Yeah. Or how about you tell like the family, the moms in this town what their son died fighting alongside Stalin's forces? I mean, really, it's so hateful. What happened to Kanye? Do you still talk to him?
No. I don't think he's a bad person, but I think he's disturbed.
Yeah.
And I think he got screwed over in business. I think a lot of what he said was true. But he'd be like, I'm flying to Austin to come on the show. And then halfway through, he'd call up and say, I think they're going to kill me. I'm turning back. And then next time, a couple times he said that, I didn't believe he'd be there. So he flies in one night. I take him to a nice hotel. He doesn't like it, leaves, middle of the night. I didn't babysit him. I dropped him off, left. And he went to some downtown hotel. Next day, my show starting at 11 a.m. Central. And I'm like, okay, so he hadn't fallen. That's fine. Start my show. He pulls up wearing a GIMP mask. And I said, look, you can wear it for a while, but you need to take it off.
Do you have a lot of guests with GIMP masks on?
No, I don't. and so he just goes on and says he loves Hitler over and over again, which I guess it like presses on the nerve of edgelording.
Yeah, no.
So it's like, I'm being bad. That only goes so far. And then I think I understood why he was wearing the mask.
Why?
Well, after the show, he goes back there and pulls the mask off to eat salad. And the pupils were just pure black.
Oh. So what's that from? Just being high.
6, 7 hits of ecstasy, I think, might do it. I don't know. I was like, he was, I've never seen anybody with pure black pupils.
Really?
He pulled it off. It was like glowing. He was just, and I was like, he's sitting there eating a salad. And I went, oh, now I understand what's going on. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, maybe a bunch of methamphetamine mixed with acid, they say could do it. I mean, I don't know. I looked it up. It's hardcore drugs can do that.
Wow.
I'm trying to be mean to him. I felt like I was actually.
Oh no, you're not being mean.
I felt like I was being abusive, even letting him on air. When it was because he was obviously out of his mind.
And that was kind of the last anyone really heard from him. That was it, kind of. That was the end of Kanye, I think.
He's like, I'm going to take the mask off now. And he just pulls it off. And I was just like, because it's like a boardroom thing, table, harsh light. And I'm standing right there and he's sitting there. And I'm watching him just like going, and I was like, wow.
So there was no one around him who cared enough to keep him off the air in that state, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, he comes in wearing the mask. I'm like, hey, I don't think I'm going to do this. I'm fine. I'll take it off in a minute. And then it goes in there and I go, take it off. No, I'm not taking it off. And it was just Hitler, like hit the button, Hitler. It's like you can rig up, I guess, cocaine for like a pigeon or a rooster or whatever. They'll just hit the button,
Oh, yeah.
Eating it forever. And I was just like, and like, that's the problem with getting those guys on the air. Because I'll have them on for a debate, but it's literally, they just go, any of them now, they just go, Hitler. It's like, they just think it's like doing something. You're just sitting there going, this is really boring.
Yeah, it's not that. I totally agree with you. And dumb. And also you want to be on the side of like decency and kindness and life and, babies. Like you don't want to be on Hitler's side. You want to be on a good side.
I mean, Hitler, people have studied him. I mean, he was a war hero, World War I, got gassed a bunch, won the Iron Cross first class, Iron Cross second class, that's the Congressional Medal of Honor. He was a war hero. That's, and then he has a hallucination that he's going to rule Germany and have the Götterdämmerung, Battle of the Gods, the next time he gets gassed, and has this vision. And then he decides it's total war and all the rest of this stuff. And, and if the Germans don't succeed, all of them deserve to die. I mean, he wrote all this stuff. I mean, this is lunatic stuff. So I'm sorry, I don't think black tanks and black uniforms and skull caps and total war is cool. It's like 14-year-old kids listen to Slayer. It's okay when you're 14, but this is not like something we really want to do.
But it's also a kind of occult tinged also.
Oh, it's beyond. It's very satanic.
Okay, so I'm against that.
Yeah, me too.
We should be against that.
Plus, all these people that are attracted to that, I mean, okay, the Germans were like followed orders and were ready for it, and they got their asses killed. Like the people trying to act like that today couldn't hold a candle to the farmer Germans.
To the Sixth Army, yeah. Exactly.
I mean, which were like the best. So, I mean, you guys are literally, I like it if you go to the British Roman Museum and they got William the Conqueror's helmet.
Yeah.
and you put the helmet on. You're not William the Conqueror just because you put the helmet on.
No.
So I'm just saying, I see all these wimps attracted to the power and the evil of it. They're like, yeah, the Germans really wore it, and they really did it. They really stepped into the office of it, and they got destroyed. So I'm just saying, you guys all flirting with it have no idea. It's not good.
No, it's not good. So Kanye never called you after that?
Oh, I think he called me some. Kanye's a great guy, but I can't have hour-long conversations.
Right.
I mean, we talk sometimes like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, what's it about? Okay, great. I mean, just long. Well, what, Alex, what do you think about them Jews? And I'm just like, yeah, okay. And it's like jacking off talking about Jews. It's the fetish of Hitler and the Jews all day. If Jews are doing something bad, I'll oppose it and try to block it, but I oppose if the Chinese are. I don't like obsess over Chinese people because Xi Jinping's evil.
Right.
I don't obsess over Jews just because Netanyahu's evil. I don't give it that power. I just oppose the policy.
I think that's you don't give it that power. That's exactly right.
And I'm not trying to be mean. You're asking the questions about Kanye.
No. Because I think there is a smart guy underneath a lot of that, and I think drugs are really bad.
He's on drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on nicotine right now, so I'm.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, that's a life enhancing drug. I've used it before. So, but do you know what happened to him? Like, he just kind of disappeared.
I just know he trots around that super hot wife of his and half naked.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it's debasing of her.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and of him, it's his wife.
Yeah.
So I know you hate talking about this, but I want you to explain what's happening with what I think is.
Let me do this first because I got the great Tucker Carlson here.
Yeah.
I'm always a little Star Trek because I love you so much. How much time do we got? Because I want to hit the real Building 7. I also want to hit some transhumanism, AI stuff. How much time we got? I know you're busy.
I'm not that busy.
You got super huge important meetings tonight.
We got like an hour.
Okay, good. Can I take a 5-minute break?
Gots to.
And then I'm going to answer every question you got.
Good.
I want to answer them all.
Perfect. Thank you. We've got a new website we hope you will visit. It's called newcommissionnow.com, and it refers to a new 9/11 commission. So we spent months putting together our 9/11 documentary series. And if there's one thing we learned, it's that, in fact, there was foreknowledge of the attacks. People knew.
The American public deserves to know.
We're shocked, actually, to learn that, to have that confirmed, but it's true. The evidence is overwhelming. The CIA, for example, knew the hijackers were here in the United States. They knew they were planning an act of terror.
In his passport is a visa to go to the United States of America.
A foreign national was caught celebrating as the World Trade Center fell and later said he was in New York, quote, to document the event. How did he know there would be an event to document in the first place? Because he had foreknowledge. And maybe most amazingly, somebody, an unknown investor, shorted American Airlines and United Airlines, the companies whose planes the attackers used on 9/11, as well as the banks that were inside the Twin Towers just before the attacks. They made money on the 9/11 attacks because they knew they were coming. Who did that?
You have to look at the evidence.
The U.S. government learned the name of that investor, but never released it. Maybe there's an innocent explanation for all this, but there isn't, actually. And by the way, it doesn't matter whether there is or not. The public deserves to know what the hell that was. How did people know ahead of time? Why was no one ever punished for it? 9/11 Commission, the original one, was a fraud. It was fake. Its conclusions were written before the investigation. That's true, and it's outrageous. This country needs a new 9/11 Commission, one that actually tells the truth, that tries to get to the bottom of the story. We can't just move on like nothing happened.
9/11 Commission is a cover.
Something did happen. We need to force a new investigation into 9/11 almost 25 years later. Sorry, justice demands it. And if you want that, go to newcommissionnow.com to add your name to our petition. We're not getting paid for this. We're doing this because we really mean it. newcommissionnow.com. So Trump got the vax? The COVID vax?
That's right. Last week, he bragged when he got his medical exam that he got the new experimental flu shot and the Pfizer booster, which his own HHS head basically said don't give it to pregnant women and adults, and that they've proven it raises your immune system is absolutely horrible. But after he had Albert Bourla a few weeks ago at the White House praising Pfizer. He's now gone on and got it as a PR stunt. So that really pissed off Trump's constituents. And we hope he didn't really take it because we need the big guy.
Well, yeah. And I think unless I'm misreading it, seems like a legitimate and very large study out of South Korea that shows a connection between the COVID vaccine and cancer because of the effects on the human immune system. And
turns it off.
Well, some cancers are opportunistic, and a low immune system invites cancer. I mean, that's why AIDS patients used to get Kaposi sarcoma. So I don't understand that. Do you think it was real?
If I had to speculate, not a conspiracy theory, pure speculation, Bourla was there a few weeks ago. He did that $75 million deal to lower drug costs, which is a good thing Trump got. And they said, hey, we got some bad PR. Why don't you say you took the shot? But I'd have to purely speculate. You talked to Trump a lot more than anybody else, pretty much. So maybe you can ask him why the hell he did that.
Do you know anyone who has taken, who would take that? I mean, it's poison. Obviously poison.
I think there's 2% uptake on the boosters now. And it's no longer recommended by HHS, which means it no longer has liability protection. So, again, that is Trump who would say at the rallies, oh, take your shot. They would boo him. So he quit doing it. And so it's things he does like that. And then some Trump supporters think we're in a cult. They go, you don't criticize anything Trump does. No, all the time we do. Like when Bondi said, let's pass hate speech laws. And that's what the ADL wants, Southern Poverty Law Center. People got pissed. She reversed herself that day. So, no, it's good for the constituents. When we see something wrong, we put Trump in there to carry out our operations to restore the republic, not to take experimental gene therapies.
It's not an attack. I mean, I'm sure you've had times in your life where you've been off on some lunatic tangent and people you love, members of your family, are like, hey, we love you. Well, it certainly happened to me a million times. People I love are like, I don't think it's a good idea, whatever you're doing. And you're grateful for that, right?
Well, that's absolutely so. But if I smoke a cigar, a few, here and there isn't bad for you. But you smoke a lot of them, you might get lip cancer or something.
Really?
I'm not up here,
I don't believe that.
I'm not here saying, kids, you should smoke cigars. The difference is Trump is up there doing it. So it's just another one of those things he does. Like, I think I'll give cruise missiles to Ukraine. Makes you wonder what's going on sometimes. I'm glad we don't have Kamala Harris. Let's get that straight. But I am a little concerned.
What is going on?
Well, everybody knows Trump's really weird. In a good way, in a lovable way. But he does so much good, and then he does so many just really bizarre zigs and zags that sometimes you just have to ask what's happening. But, that video over a year ago of him and Kennedy, right before Kennedy endorsed him, a year and a half ago, that somebody shot of him on speakerphone, Kennedy with Trump. And Trump's like, well, maybe it is too big a shot and maybe the kids shouldn't take it. Maybe you're right, Bobby. That's the Trump we need, not the Trump, oh, look, I took my shot. It's so great. Plus the flu shot, they admit, look this up. They've never, in 50 years of the flu shot, predicted the right mutation for that year's flu. And it lowers your immune system to the next year's flu.
Well, the flu shot paralyzed a relative of mine. A close relative of mine, briefly. Paralyzed, waist down, paralyzed, period. That a flu shot did that. Fact.
Paralyzed Kennedy's larynx.
Yeah. So I don't know what, and is there any evidence the flu shot, reduces overall mortality?
You can look this up. It has never worked. It is an absolute total fraud. They've never picked the right mutation for it. And so if it's not the exact mutation, it doesn't work.
So over the population, there's no evidence that the flu shot, which you could get at your grocery store, the nurse's office, or wherever at work, that it has reduced the number overall of dead people in the United States in a given year.
No. And to show what fraud statistics are, so who knows? Remember the first year and a half of COVID, 0 flu deaths, basically, which is normally about 30,000. They took that number, said that wasn't, there was no flu death, but it all became COVID death.
So given how obviously discredited science has been in the last 5 years, where normal people are like, I don't know what this is, but I'm against it, wouldn't now be the time to mandate a total halt to any Frankenscience underway, where we're trying to create life or clone people or change the human genome? Gain of function, which is now like universal. Gain of function didn't go away. Gain of function became much more popular after the creation of the COVID virus.
That's right. Instead of being illegal, they're just in mass doing it, even though it's still illegal. And now they've got self-replicating DNA vaccines. They've got stuff far worse, according to all the experts. And Kennedy did ban all thimerosal, mercury in shots. He did point out that Tylenol lowers blood-brain barrier, that when you take a vaccine with it, it's even more dangerous, especially in boys who have weaker blood-brain barriers. He did recommend fluoride be taken out of the water. Pam Bondi had DOJ block that. Not trying to demonize Pam Bondi. She just keeps popping up. And he is doing a lot of really, really great things, not making the COVID shot recommended so that they'll stop pushing it. And then you've just got Trump working kind of at loggerheads against Kennedy, who I would say has gotten more done than I thought he could. I think Kennedy is a shining light. So is Tulsi Gabbard. With the resources they had, Tom Homan and the Border Patrol and ICE, they've really done a great job because their system had been dismantled, as you know. But I would say ending a lot of conflicts, A+ on that. But expanding the Russia operation, terrible. Getting jobs back to America, I'd say great job. But Trump needs to know that the American people have rejected Big Pharma, and they're tired of it, and they hate Albert Bourla, they hate Anthony Fauci. We don't need to be seeing Albert Bourla, who's just as hated as Fauci at the White House. We need to see Fauci and Albert Bourla indicted for the things they've done.
Why not just strip immunity from the vaccine makers? Wouldn't that, we have a system in place, it's been in place for my whole life, where if you're making a consumer product that hurts people, you can be sued. And so people who make consumer products try to make them safe because there are consequences to selling poison.
That's exactly what should be done. And that's the 86.
But that's like simple. That's super simple. Like, why not? It's only been I remember 1986 was 39 years ago. It's not that hard. This is not like in the Constitution that vaccine makers have, blanket shield immunity.
And now they're calling gene therapies vaccines. They've changed the definition. So now anything they want to inject into you, they claim is a vaccine with liability protection. Well, that's why Kennedy removing the recommended status by HHS and FDA, when you do that, it technically removes the protection of the liability protection. But then that's why suddenly now the Pfizer mRNA shots warns you that it can kill you. Remember, at first it was a blank piece of paper for the first time ever.
Yeah,
the first year of the rollout, they just said the name of the shot. The company wouldn't tell you that piece of paper that comes with the shot container, the ampule, blank. But now it says a bunch of stuff can kill you. Watch out. It's up to you. So instead of them pulling it from the market, when liability protection actually was taken, if you read the fine print, yes, they just put in the fine print it can kill you now, which also protects them.
I knew that. I know someone who was killed by it. And his family couldn't sue. Do you feel a rise do you feel like people are talking about God and spiritual matters more than they did 10 years ago? I mean, clearly they are. Where's that going?
I saw you with a guest a few weeks ago talk about it. This is well known. I talked to everybody that's done it. I haven't done it. Almost everyone that takes DMT, either from the toad or the ayahuasca plant, these creatures show up that look like court gestures or space aliens, different things, and say, there are too many humans, you need to wipe out the population, then you'll become gods. It's the same message. And they've had groups of people, they've done studies.
You need to wipe out, you need to kill people so you can become God?
Yes, you need to depopulate and you need to transcend.
Do you know people who've heard that message?
Oh, absolutely. They've had whole groups and studies that have had group hallucinations of this.
I don't know. I'm not the most spiritually sensitive person. I'm hardly a theologian. But if some demon is telling you to kill people so you can become God, like, we can say that's bad, right?
Absolutely. And the people that then, you're talking about tech heads who, microdose and are big in hallucinations and big into hallucinogenics. When they get more advanced and deep into it, and then most of them have talked about this, then the things start giving them more ideas and explaining the system they're going to build, the AI, the takeover, and this new species, and how, again, you're going to transcend death. And so we've all got to have a larger question there. So they say the devil's greatest trick was convincing the world he didn't exist. I think that's his second biggest trick. I think convincing the world that good doesn't exist is the devil's biggest trick.
Yes. Can you flat? I think that I'm not exactly sure what you're saying, but I know that you're telling the truth right now. Can you?
Well, convincing us that there isn't anybody good and that you don't have power and that it's all over and we are the Borg, you will be assimilated. The biggest trick is hopelessness when we're promoting truth and justice and honor, and we can't just dial into demons and fallen angels. We can also dial into God and get that message. But you first have to recognize that good and evil exist.
Yes.
And once you recognize that we are ethereal beings, that we are just manifesting ourselves in the third dimension, that all these people that are even atheists have these near-death experiences that come back with the same message. I mean, I personally in my life, have had so many times where I'm literally told something and it comes true and it just comes from God. And so I know this is real. We are a lot more complex than just what our eyes and ears and, taste and touch pick up. And when you really actually study the globalists, none of them are atheists. They're into the occult.
Exactly.
And they believe they're interfacing, even at Skull and Bones. At Yale, they get in these coffins for days. They try to get these spirits to come into them. They try to channel these spirits. You've got the heads of Skull and Bones there in the last few days seeing who's able to interface with this. These are real rituals that are part of activating parts of the mind so that people can see past the veil. And again, they've now been able with robots and computers and wires in the brain, as Elon's talked about decades ago, this was already done. Your eyes narrow the light spectrum because there's so much going on that if you saw the infrared and everything else, would be too confusing. But now with hallucinogens and other things, they have been able to prove that people can actually see past the veil into basically other dimensions. And so that's really what this is. And we have to admit to ourselves that what we see and taste and touch and everything is a very small piece of actually what's going on. And that's that wider world. And people have to, once they understand that there is this wider battle going on, then you realize, oh my God, God's real. I better choose God or I better choose the devil. But if people are kind of embedded into this and just grow up in it, and just with the corporate media and life, they get trained into the evil side, never knowing they really had a choice. But almost everybody, if they're given a choice early enough, will choose God that right way. The problem is the system on earth knows that, so the priest class in Christianity or Islam or Judaism, any of it, most of it's bad priests, bad churches, who know the power's there, know people are looking for God, know they're seeking, so they're there basically to get the power from you instead of you basically transcending spiritually. And so that's why Christ talked about the relationship with God is personal.
Yes.
And the kingdom of God is within us. The New Agers go, oh, you are God. No, kingdom of God is within us. We're made in God's image. We have the potential to know God, to interface with God. That's worship God. And then through that, begin to transcend to a higher consciousness, interfacing with God, not God, but with God, and then part of God.
So the gift is to see good. Like in that, I do think that's the trick. Because, no one needs a tutorial on evil. It's all around us. It's super obvious. It no longer disguises itself. Abortion for the sake of abortion? Like, what is that? Well, it's human sacrifice. It's just Canaanite. And
the DNC doing abortions inside of
completely for the sake of abortion, not to improve the life of the girl or she's a 14-year-old rape victim. It's just like, no, abortion is inherently good because it's killing a person. That is all out in the open now. Nobody is confused about its existence. What you don't get a lot of is the recognition that good is a more than equal. It's a larger and opposing force. God is bigger than Satan, and you don't get that sense. Like nobody talks about that. You don't see it. How do you find that?
So many people purposely get turned off of the system by going to a church, whether it's Catholic, Protestant, any of it. And I'm a very empathic person. So growing up, I would feel at churches and you get invited here or there, really creeped out, not by the parishioners, but by the people in the system that are trained. Because
that is for sure. Gosh,
where I feel the strongest demonic energy is in a lot of these big churches and a lot of these big things, because that's where the devil's sitting his forces, and it's energetic. And so, but Christ criticized the Pharisees, Sadducees constantly. He said, you go pray up on the hill in front of everybody. You talk about how perfect you are all day, but really you're of your father, the devil, in the synagogue of Satan. Or you call it a black, Sabbath or whatever. And it happens in Christian churches, it happens in Judaism, it happens everywhere. And if you look at later Judaism, it's not just the Old Testament, the Torah, there's over 30 other books that they say, the rabbinical teachings are just as important. And it runs the gamut from some sects that you could call very pious and close to God to others that are outright Satanism. And you see that in the Christian denominations, all the things that call themselves Christian, that really aren't. Christ said, beware things, call themselves of God but are not, or the synagogue of Satan. Well, there weren't Christian churches then, the churches were synagogues, but it goes for synagogues, churches, anything that you got to be really close to God and the Holy Spirit lest you be deceived. And so that's really where it all is. And it comes down to your spiritual inclination. But I just recommend the people personal relationship with God, praying to God, saying, I want to be good. I want to recognize truth. I want to know what truth is. I want to open myself up to you. I'm an imperfect. I repent for what I've done, and I want you to cleanse me and then show me the truth, and then show me how to be a better person, and then show me after that what the mission is you have for me. And literally, if you do that through a process, it may take days, may take months, may take years, then the adventure begins. And then all of a sudden you're being given like intel and stuff, like literally just, you have to learn to go with it. It's never wrong. And it's God and it's there, and it's your personal relationship. And then obviously people get this relationship. They all want to teach other people it. And God says, get together in groups. That's great. But Christ didn't try to go get the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the priest class to join him. He said their minds were closed. He went to the prostitutes and the tax collectors and the robbers and the thieves because they were already outcast. But that's where he found people that were already under evil's control but weren't arrogant about it, who were looking for a way out. And so, I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to, is a spiritual relationship with God. And there are some real churches and things.
But don't you find that? I know I have found that you see sparks of this in the most unlikely people. If you put a list on paper of the people in your life, I won't ask you to say it out loud, but who you really trust, or you talk to and you groove with them and they like know exactly what you're saying. You know, they are on the same wavelength in some deep way. It's not the people you would expect. Have you ever noticed that?
Absolutely. I mean, most people get into media because they want to be movie stars. Most people become a preacher because they want to, because they want to be famous and have power. And then you'll find like just the most just normal, unassuming person that has all this great knowledge.
Yes.
Because they already have all the power. They don't need power. And so it's just
they're connected to God's power. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. And I mean, it's quite the quest, because so many people are lost, and really it's an inside job. They've got to somehow open up the channel to God, and then they'll see everything that's happening, and then God will give them a message and a mission of what they should do. And I don't want to say all churches are bad, because there's a lot of good people in the churches regardless. It's just that the last 120 years, the Rockefeller Foundation, with the ecumenical movement and all of that, has really moved into the churches. And we see that with all the rainbow flags and all, the famous cathedrals in England now festooned with all the leftists, graffiti and garbage. I mean, it's been captured, is my point. But people can't get turned off by that and say, well, God's dead. No. Satan has occupied the so-called temples, but God isn't in the temple. God is inside us.
Do the temples get torn down? Like, do the last vestiges of the old civilization get erased and Christians start anew? Like, what is this? How does this unfold?
I think that's up to how God influences everybody. I think we could, over time, retake those things. But the Satanists and the leftists and the power hungry, they think if they can take over the skin of something and occupy it,
yes,
that they can fool people that are looking for God. But that's actually triggering the Great Awakening. So I think some of the buildings get torn down, some of the buildings get retaken. But at the end of the day, God's temple is with us.
It doesn't matter, does it?
It doesn't matter.
Right. So Westminster Abbey is not where God lives. No, that's so important to remember. Do you get discouraged? Do you ever think it's hopeless?
No, because it's all in God's plan, but I do get discouraged for individuals who kind of fall to evil. You see good people that fight evil for a while, but they get put under pressure, they get attacked, they turn to the dark side.
Boy, have I seen that.
Because it gets them ahead for a little while, and then you later see them destroyed.
Yeah, always. And their families destroyed too.
Yeah, so, and I get tempted by evil. Sometimes like a devil jumps into me. And I mean, by that, I'm just busy, I'm tired, I'm whatever, and I catch myself, and I'm like, whoa. For a minute, I was like, turning into everything I'm trying to fight. So I'm not up here on some high horse, I've got all the answers and I'm perfect. Because anybody empathic can, tune into different frequencies and things that are happening. But at the end of the day, your heart's what matters. King David did a lot of bad things and sent his best buddy off to get killed because he was lusting after his wife, but he really repented. And God said, you're a man after my own heart. So at the end of the day, it's where you point your soul. And so many Christians and so many people that love God have guilt. The devil's the accuser. And so, I made a mistake. I wasn't perfect. I'm not really a Christian. I'm not really good. No, as long as you mean well and are doing the best you can, you're going to stumble. You're going to have problems and you're going to have issues, but it doesn't matter because that's why God's there to help you. And you just got to reach out to God and say, I can't do this alone. I need you. And I think people just need to say, I need God. I give it to God. Not, I'm going to lay down and just trust in God. Some of the churches, thank God they're coming out with microchips and Mark of the Beast. That means Jesus is coming back soon. Well, I was talking to a police officer today we saw out here, and he's like, well, just thank God Jesus is coming back soon. Well, if you actually read Revelation, it doesn't actually read like that. We have to go through this whole project, and then this happens. And it's
also like explicit throughout the New Testament. You're not going to know. You're not God. You don't get to predict when this happens. It comes like a thief in the night. And so
exactly. And I'm not putting him down for being like, praise God.
No.
Jesus is coming back soon. My point is that it says the Antichrist will wage war against the saints and overcome them.
Right.
So there's and then we lose in the third quarter, we win in the fourth quarter because God's going to test us.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, thank God we won't be here. That's only been around Schofield Bible and all that, like 150 years. Nobody ever taught that, not in Catholicism, Protestantism.
It's absurd.
Nobody ever taught. I mean, the Antichrist has got guillotines cutting Christians' heads off.
Right.
So how are they all raptured if they're getting their heads cut off? So see, so.
Well, the whole thing, I mean, it's obviously a heresy, but more than that, it's such a clear usurpation of God's power. It's like, I've figured out exactly when this is going to happen and how it's going to go. It's like, no,
what happened to all the disciples? Almost all of them got killed.
Yeah, I know.
Did they get raptured out?
No, I know. The whole thing it's sad. And by the way, really good people fall for it. Really good. Some of my favorite and most decent people fall for it. I'm not attacking anyone at all, but it's clearly not true. And it leads them to defend like murder and stuff.
While we're on theology, exactly. While we're on theology, what do you think of Peter Thiel's whole Antichrist lecture?
I haven't seen it. I have talked to him about it at great length. I think it's really interesting. I didn't really get to the punchline on that. So the question everyone, has is, okay, who's the Antichrist? I think maybe there's more than one. I don't know.
It's a system.
Right. So I would just say I'm not taking a pass on the question. I would, but I don't, this is so far out of my depth. I mean, I'm just sort of at the I'm for Jesus stage of things, but I'm glad that there's a conversation about it. I welcome all conversations about the transcendent because I think it's what matters.
Well, exactly, because I love a comedian, Tim Dillon. He's like, this guy's got all this cashless control grid, and then he wants to know about the Antichrist. Well, he grew up really Christian. People don't know. It'd be a Peter Thiel, and then now he's wanting to have a debate about it. I don't think the Antichrist wants you to have a debate about the Antichrist.
I think that's probably right. And just in general, it's worth talking about and reminding ourselves and others that this is just like a small piece of what's real. We're just seeing a tiny fraction of reality. Like the spiritual world, that realm is as real as, the table we're sitting at. And people lose sight of that. I lose sight of that.
Exactly. So we should be having not just Peter Thiel, everybody, Donald Trump, you and I, we should be discussing Revelation, what's described is really happening now.
Yeah.
So we should be having, Peter Thiel's the Antichrist. He's talking about the Antichrist. What? Because people are like, well, what's he doing talking about the Antichrist? Well, I think we should all be talking about it.
Well, because I think the temptation is to just ignore the whole topic. I mean, that's the world that I grew up in, where it was just never discussed.
Devil doesn't exist. It was just
100%. People's sex lives were a frequent topic of conversation. Everyone was super liberal about that. Like no one was embarrassed of anything except any question that transcended the material was just considered, like death was considered totally off limits because it pointed to these obvious questions like what happens then? And so I really welcome that. I think all healthy societies face death.
Exactly.
Directly.
People go, oh, you're a Peter Thiel dick writer. No, you should be having a discussion about Antichrist. Why aren't you? And so what I haven't seen the presentation.
So people, I'm sorry, I miss a lot because I do think the internet's demonic. Sorry, I know I work on the internet, but the whole thing makes me uncomfortable. So I haven't seen any of this, but people are attacking Thiel for this.
Oh, I mean, it's like, oh yeah. It's like, they haven't even found out what he's saying. I've read some of the articles. I tried to get tickets, but it was already sold out. But I wanted to see his view on it. But all I know is that we should be having a discussion about the Antichrist. I mean, we're having one already here. And so what is the Antichrist? I think you need to know the enemy. I think you need to know.
Well, one obvious hallmark from my, frequent but very untutored reading of those books in the New Testament is that the Antichrist reserves the powers of God for himself. He pretends to be God. I'm all powerful. I can, worship me. And by the way, that's most leaders in the world through all time. But those are signs of evil. You are not God. No one can worship
totally
you.
agree.
No one can worship you. And the shitty things you do on earth do not make you powerful. They destroy you, actually. And so that it's all described in Jesus' 40 days in the wilderness where Satan offers him these deals and he declines all of them. But that's like whether you're a Christian or not, that is the template for life. Oh, if I just do this, I'll win this election. I break some eggs to make the omelet. No, dude, you're going to be destroyed for that. Probably in this life, certainly in the next. And that's just real. That's just a fact.
Oh, I agree. And it's nothing but healthy to have a discussion about that.
100%. So I guess the one thing I don't like about the Antichrist conversation is it makes it sound like, Anton LaVey is going to show up and start murdering people. And I think it's much more present than that. I mean, I think literally Antichrist means against Christ. Well, who would that include? Most leaders in the world, they hate Jesus.
They do. Well, look what Elon is starting to come around.
You want to make people upset? Start talking about Jesus. I just did this at Charlie Kirk's memorial. I did some 6-minute talk about Jesus, only Jesus. That's it. I said to my wife in the shower that morning, I was like, I'm not getting political at all. I'm not going to attack anybody. I just want to be as unifying as I can and consistent with what Charlie really cared about as I can and what he really cared about.
They called it anti-Semitic.
It was insane. Which was of course absurd, but leaving aside the absurdity, the emotion was real. It was totally real. Oh my gosh, that's outrageous that you said that. It's
great speech. I watched it.
Oh, it was just short, but all I did was recount the gospel. But that's the most controversial thing you can do. And everyone's happy to talk about God all the time. God, spiritual, this Jesus, man, that's a no-go zone. Why is that?
Absolutely.
Because it's real, that's why. And it just triggers the fuck out of people. I shouldn't even.
Well, no, but I agree with you that we need to have an open discussion about this because it's here. And notice the left, they're all about total control of language where there's almost nothing discussed. And so that's why they get so upset when these discussions start to happen. And I just look at civilization and society. We should be having a major front and center discussion about AI. And that's what Elon Musk talks about, who's gone from not believing in God, saying we need God. He's starting to come around to saying, listen, we're going to have AI. Obviously, the genie's out of the bottle, but we don't want to centralize them. We want a whole bunch of them. We want a diversity of them. And I think, what is the answer to AI? Because it's people say, oh, why are you for AI? I'm not. It's not going away. What is the answer to AI if it's being rolled out? And I know the globalists want to basically have one AI. Elon's answers have distributed AI, non-centralized AI, but no matter what it is, it just turns bad.
I have no idea. I know that a lot of the people developing AI are really, really bad. Really, really bad. The worst. And what do I mean by bad specifically? They think they're God. And that's the core lie. It's not how many people have you killed? If you think you're God, you will kill people. And the more power you have, the more you will kill. It's just by its nature bad. And so it means no restraint, no perspective, no humility. Man, that's a recipe for genocide always. Right?
I know we want to hit my own personal issues and a few other things, and I appreciate the time, Tucker, but big picture, let's just be completely honest about Trump. It's a blessing to have him in office. We're 9 months in. The Democrats are destroying themselves, lowest approval rating ever, lowest fundraising ever. It's really up to us to lose this, but we are starting to see some indictments of Comey and Lisa James. We're told a lot more are coming. The Democrats are now pledging, resistance and violence. And what's the quote? Energetic uprisings or forceful uprisings. Sorry, forceful uprisings. Chuck Schumer, how do you see this unfolding, and what can the general public do to try to save the country in a nonviolent way? Because, I just think Trump rhetorically needs to be out front explaining to people how dangerous things are and the crossroads, instead of just saying, oh, liberals are dumb, they don't know what they're doing. No, the leftist globalists have a plan all over the world. They know what they're deliberately doing.
I think, a lot of things are important. Prayer is the most important. Keeping the people you love close, keeping your personal relationships strong, keeping your personal life virtuous. I do think that's really important. I think you become, having led a very non-virtuous life myself, I'm not judging anybody. I just know from experience that the less virtuous your personal life, the weaker you are. It makes you weak. That's why I quit drinking. It made me weak, et cetera. So, those are all super important. But from a governance perspective, the government, the people who are elected to run the government need to make sure that the instruments of government are loyal to the Constitution and under control. And that's the concern that I have, is that especially older conservatives, whatever that is, Republicans, whatever that is, but, non-leftists are living without dated understandings of like the military and the police. And, there are a lot of great people in the military. I know a lot of them, and there are a lot of great cops. We were just with one of them a second ago. But there are also a lot of people with guns in official capacities who are really, really dangerous. And you need to make sure those people are under control. And by under control, I don't mean loyal to Donald Trump, the man. I mean loyal to the Constitution.
Absolutely. Well, there was a whole bunch of people, including Sheriff Tammy's people earlier today. And you're like, well, of course, the leadership of the Pentagon are the worst globalists. And they're like, what? Really? Our military's not the best? Like Trump admitted 8 years ago, he was lied to. The leadership's been groomed, put through these globalist schools, brainwashed.
They're awful. They're awful.
They're the worst. And Trump finally knows that. So going into this attempted civil war, the enlisted are great people, on average the best, but people really have this vision of the military that's delusional.
A lot of them are sociology professors with nuclear weapons. I mean, they're scary. And I know that just from living in D.C. I wouldn't know that if I hadn't spent my life in Washington. The Pentagon's right there. The neighborhood I grew up in Georgetown was, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs lived like one house over from me. There was always circulating through, because they all circulate through D.C. So I would have, go to dinners or duck hunts or whatever. You're with these people and you're like, wait, you're like stupid, totally incapable of like creative or independent thought. And you're a lefty, big time. And like self-hating white guys and like crypto gay and like all like they're sociology professors. A lot of them, I've met a lot of them, a lot. Why do you think DEI swept through the military? Because the flag officers wanted it. And why did they want it? Because they hate themselves. Because they all got, master's degrees at Fletcher or whatever. At some, they all got indoctrinated by higher education, as you explained at the outset. So like, man, you have to make sure those people are loyal to the Constitution, and you need to go through systematically. By the way,
you think Trump finally knows that he thought the brass were these badass John Wayne guys are literally the enemy?
Well, apparently everyone says that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is like a really good, solid
Raising Cane
American. That's correct. Dan Cain is a great guy. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of great people. Caveat.
There's still a few left that.
Yeah, there may be many left. But
look at how Flynn
there are many bad.
Flynn hit himself forever.
Many bad. And the left used the COVID vaccine to weed out the men, guys with testosterone and self-respect, who were like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to poison myself. And so they left. And that was the point of the COVID vax, was to purge the men. So it's all like betas and women who can be controlled and are sort of eager to worship false gods. And you have those people with guns. I don't know. It's really scary what just happened under Biden. And has it been corrected? I don't.
And notice the alpha males, back when Obama wanted to attack Syria and the Russians, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, then he goes, that's World War III, full war. They had to back off. So even that was the tail end. Now you have like weird guys that say they're women with bald heads stealing women's gowns at the airport over the nuclear stockpile. And they're all, and like Sean Penn's on TV saying, why not have a nuclear war? What's wrong with that? It's like they had the real warriors know, no, you can't do that. But now you've got a collection, like you said, of sociology and anthropology professors that are completely bonkers and like aren't making the connection. Like this is real. Like the Russians aren't playing around.
Oh, and it's self-hating men and bloodthirsty women. And
I love the liberal thing. Once women are in charge, there'll be no more wars.
Well, that's bullshit.
That's not what the studies show.
Well, it's not what reality shows us. Female leadership leads to violence.
Why is that? It's true.
I don't know, and I, as a great lover of women and the father of a number of women, and I'm not anti-women. I like. I like them more than men and anyone.
I love women, but it's true. But I remember reading studies.
Female leadership leads to violence, and you see it. And it was Governor Wallace's wife who opened the windows to
smell the burning tires,
drink in the redolent odor of riot. Yeah, it's Winnie Mandela, man. It's really, the Bolsheviks' wives were more bloodthirsty than they were. I don't know exactly what that is. I think weak male leadership incites something in women that's really dark. That's not their fault. That's men's fault. Men's job is to lead. You can't shirk that duty because it's not created by man. It's pre-existent.
Well, they found in studies in total war, like women commit way more war crimes than men.
You were turned over to the squaws to be tortured to death over the period of 3 weeks. They slow roast you. So, all of that, it's all true. And I also think it's, having lost 2 fistfights in my life badly, I'm hesitant to get into a fistfight. I mean, there's something about, being forced to box as a kid as I was, and learning that, like, I'm not as tough as I thought I was or whatever. But the experience of physical violence is much more a male thing. And people who haven't been in a fist fight shouldn't be commanding an army or a country for that matter, or a country. They should
the tougher the more you learn there's always somebody tougher.
100%. And it hurts to get hit in the face. It hurts a lot. Actually, it hurts so much. That's why I was never good at boxing. My brother was good, but I was not, because I hit in the face and I'd be like, oh, I think we should negotiate this. Like, there's got to be a smarter way to do this. That was and then I was like, I'm not suited for that. And, but it was only through that experience that I learned. Anyway, you know all this because you're a man. But yes, there's something about female leadership that gets you very quickly to violence. And you see it in the support for the Ukraine war, which is like the murder of an entire country's male population.
And now, though, a bunch of European countries are doing female conscription. I wonder if combat is going to get the women to not be for war.
I wonder why you would even bother with a civilization if you're sending your women to fight wars. I don't understand. Just give up at that point.
It's like Ursula von der Leyen.
You only have a military to protect your women. That's the point. There's only one reason, and that's to protect my wife and my daughters. And if it weren't for that, why would we need a military? And so if I'm sending my wife and my daughters to go fight a war on my behalf, I mean, that is the most grotesque thing I can imagine. That is so shameful. That is so disgusting. I don't know how we can
it is. You got Ursula von der Leyen, the unelected EU head, literally talking about there's too many humans. We need depopulation. You pull it up, and we're going to beat Russia, no problem. And I'm sorry, like, I have no respect for her because I guarantee she's never been in a fist fight, much less she's not been in the military. I mean, it's like, it's crazy.
But there's a cruelty there, and I don't understand it. The women in my life are the kindest people. They bring me back to decency. Under their influence, I am more decent. But you see in modern female leadership, not all, but a lot of it, Tulsi Gabbard is an incredible exception to this rule. Is like a truly humane, decent person. But man, you see a lot of counterexamples where these women they can't wait to kill. And I don't know what that is.
Because the system is selecting twisted women.
It's probably right. And it has something to do with men vacating their role.
I agree. Could you believe that Letitia James bitched and complained and said Trump has weaponized things against me?
It's kind of... Yeah.
But that's the system.
The entitlement level in this country has gotten very high, I will say.
Well, that's not just hiding behind a woman, behind a black woman. That's all they're doing. It's totally, transparent.
Well, the most powerful people in our society consider themselves its greatest victims. You always notice that. Like, I'm a victim. I need security at my house. It's like, okay. No, you're not a victim. You're the perpetrator. So speaking of victims and perpetrators, you are the victim of the greatest crime against free speech in the last 10 years. You were accused of saying things. You say your remarks are misconstrued or misrepresented intentionally. From my perspective, it doesn't matter what you said. You didn't hurt anybody. You didn't cheat anybody. You didn't issue a fake stable coin. You didn't carjack. You gave an opinion, and for that opinion, the U.S. government, through an FBI agent, has basically tried to destroy your life and are on the cusp of taking your entire life away. And so here's my question. One, how close are you to having everything taken from you? And two, where's the Trump Justice Department in this? I don't understand.
This is such a huge subject.
It is a huge subject.
And I want to answer this because this affects everybody, not just me. And what just happened to Mike Lindell 2 days ago ties directly into this. So I'm going to do my best, but I want viewers to understand this isn't about me. This is about you and the end of judicial process in this country and the final phase of the weaponized judiciary, because the Democrats haven't given up.
First question, how close are they, and by they, I mean this constellation of law firms, NGOs, and federal law enforcement employees, to taking everything from you and shutting you down, taking you off the air? I know that's been in progress for a while. You've outrun them, but I feel like you're getting toward the end. And two, or B, where's the Trump Justice Department? And why is this being allowed?
Well, to quote the song, I got one more silver dollar. So they sued me 7 years ago. They spent $300 million. They had been court filings doing it. Paul Weiss, Democrat law firms, all of it. Had the judges find me guilty. Here's a microcosm or a current example. 2 days ago, Mike Lindell, Smartmatic. The judge finds him guilty, claims he didn't give the discovery. It's the new thing they do. So I was found guilty in Texas and in Connecticut by Democrat judges, literal Antifa Soros judges, of not giving discovery, which wasn't true. So then I'm found guilty. Then they have a show trial. So then they have the show trial. They get $1.5 billion judgment. They do all this, and then they don't want to settle. I said, here, have all the money I'll make in the next 10 years, which was more than I ever made in 10 years, $75 million. They said, we don't want that. We want you off the air, in press conferences, on national TV, in court filings. You're not supposed to just take somebody off the air. You're supposed to be able to get your judgment. Plus, it's all an appeal. So last Tuesday, they had the state receiver in my offices looking at everything, saying, we'll probably shut you down in about a month. They're waiting for the state court that we have it on appeal to lift the stay.
And this is because you gave an opinion. I just want to be clear. You didn't do anything. You had an opinion, which you say they mischaracterized. But again, I would say even if they didn't mischaracterize it, you're entitled by birth as an American to have any freaking opinion you want.
Well, to be clear, the internet, years after Sandy Hook, had viral videos and professors saying they didn't think it happened. They put evidence 22 minutes in the show trials of me questioning and having debates with people.
You're allowed to question anything you want. You're allowed to have any opinion you want. This is the United States of America.
Well, it's like the Charlie Kirk thing. I believe Charlie Kirk's dead. I think the official story is probably true. There's questions, but people are saying he didn't die. There's people saying this and that. I don't think it's true, but the point is they have a right to do that as Americans.
You have a right to any opinion you want, period.
So they have the show trials. They do it. They want me off the air. Then I go into bankruptcy because I don't have any money 3 years ago. They use the bankruptcy. They assign the Justice Department, which they can do. They have a special office to my bankruptcy. They use InfoWars money in the account to do 4 investigations to find fraud. They find no fraud. They sue my parents. They do it all.
They use your money to sue your parents?
Yes. Then the judge, Lopez in Houston, federal judge, he says, I want this to be sold at auction a year and a half ago. Cash auction up front. Here's the rules. They do an auction, say it's a cash auction, cancel it, and then sell it to the Onion basically for no money, funded by Michael Bloomberg. The judge last November says it's a fraud, has hearings, shuts it down. They also sent armed security in without court orders, tried to shut us down in May of last year. So all this goes on, all this happens. We learned the Justice Department from documents was, under Biden, was funding the lawsuits, running all of it. We get those documents. The new Justice Department learns about it, Ed Martin, and says our job is weaponization. We know we have the documents. The Justice Department previously did this, that the FBI admitted in court that they ran this, created the lawsuits, William Aldenberg, the chief counsel of Connecticut at the time. And we're going to send a letter and ask them to preserve their documents. We're going to talk to them. That was about a month ago. And I showed you the letter and the other letters that are out there.
So Ed Martin is a great guy. He's been in this room. Ed Martin is in charge of undoing the weaponization of government, which is to say the agencies being used as for political ends to destroy people who get in the way of the Democratic Party. And his job is to undo some of the...
And I'm one of the more famous cases. The White House, right when they got in 8 months ago, gave me classified documents that Obama targeted me for national security 2013 with Comey. We had other documents come out. They didn't find anything in a 10-year investigation. So they moved on to do the Sandy Hook thing as a big production with the FBI. The Justice Department illegally funded it. We have all those documents. And so just like Mike Lindell 2 days ago in the Smartmatic suit, the judge finds him guilty and it's now going to seize his company and shut him down without a jury trial. So it's the same thing. Again, this is their model.
And what did Mike Lindell do wrong?
He questioned the 2020 election and he's been vindicated.
So they get to take his company away for that?
Including firing all his employees because they don't want money. So
then, and this is happening right now?
It's happening right now. And so the bigger question is, so here's what happened. So Martin says, no, this is weaponization. You have all the documents. We have more documents. We want to investigate this. So I go a month and a half ago, meet in D.C., do all this. They get the letter and other communiques. It's this Koskoff, Democrat, Senator Blumenthal law firm, basically a Bloomberg law firm in Connecticut. They flip out and say, Jones is harassing a hero FBI agent. Never said his name, never criticized him. He won a $130 million defamation suit against me in the Sandy Hook defamation that he created, though no one ever said his name. He'd been on the stand. No one in your office, you never said, I didn't know who he was till he sued me. So he goes and creates the suit, organizes the families with the NGOs, does all this, and then I talked to the DOJ. They sent a letter saying, preserve your records. I showed you the ABC News headline. And then Todd Blanche, the deputy AG, calls up in the news, chews out Ed Martin, says, in this investigation and pull this. And so...
Wait, why?
I mean, will Todd Blanche let them shut down My Pillow? Will Todd Blanche let them do all this? Because they go, Alex Jones was mean to dead kids' families. There was never any evidence of that.
Well, but even, again, just to restate, the Constitution of the United States, the country we live in, you're allowed to have any opinion you want. Okay.
I agree.
You were making a political point, and the job of the government is to defend that right. That's the point of the Department of Justice, defend that right. So I'm totally confused here. So you're saying that one of the top guys at DOJ, Todd Blanche, whom I've talked to before, I don't know much about Todd Blanche, but you're saying that he stopped Ed Martin?
He bragged about it all over the news of 3 weeks ago.
Why would he do that?
Here's what they do. They say people peed on kids' graves, people harass their houses. And then in court, when did it happen? I don't know. Somebody told me who, I don't know.
Did you pee on someone's grave?
No one, I'd never been to Connecticut until they brought me there for trial. No, none of that happened. But the point is, I'm this guy. People don't know that Adam Lanza killed the kids. His mom bought a Bushmaster.
I know.
And
but just again, it doesn't even matter. Like, it's such a sad, horrible story. And
they just put me in the place of.
But you've got nothing to do with it. You shared an opinion about a tragedy. People can disagree with your opinion. They can dislike your opinion. They can't destroy you for your opinion because it's America. And the Department of Justice exists to protect that right. So I don't really get this. So Todd Blanche, I'm taking your word on this. I haven't heard this before. You're saying, is he a career guy, Todd Blanche?
Well, he was a Democrat until Trump won the election.
Is he an appointee?
Yeah, he's the deputy AG.
And so you're confident that he shut down any attempts?
Oh, he bragged. Just type in Todd Blanche, Alex Jones, Ed Martin. He went on the news and said, "This is terrible. I'm killing this investigation."
Why was it terrible?
It's a hero FBI agent.
Because you're bad? You offended some FBI agent, therefore you should be destroyed?
I never even knew who he was till he sued me.
You're allowed to not like FBI agents. You're allowed to have any opinion you want. This is like the craziest thing I've ever
William
heard.
Oldenburg said on the stand, he went and created the lawsuits, which violates a whole bunch of laws. That's what Ed Martin put in his letter, was that you can, as a sitting agent, go and create a case for yourself. It's an emolument issue. So here's where we are. They say the new model is sue you for defamation, have a Democrat judge find you guilty by default, then do this, then they don't accept a settlement, then they shut you down. So the answer is, how long will we be there? They want the name InfoWars. The Onion, and this former MSNBC censorship czar, he had the same job as Brian Stelter at CNN. He has said recently in an interview with Wired Magazine, if I was God, I want InfoWars. And so they think now they're going to seize the assets of the state. They're going to hand it to them. He says they're going to use our logos. He says he's going to pose as Charlie Kirk as well, put out fake quotes of Charlie. Look this up. And their new thing is to have my website and use it to attack Charlie Kirk.
Okay. So this is just totally grotesque. And this is not the free market at work. This is NGOs plus law firms plus the U.S. government destroying a private citizen for opposing the political agenda of the people in charge. So this is like exactly what you can't have in your country.
And they brag they're doing it because of that.
Of course. Well, there's no other reason.
They say, we want you off the air.
Simple question to you, could the current Department of Justice shut this down?
Yes. The DOJ's Office of Bankruptcy already had one U.S. trustee fired, the next caught in a fake auction. My lawyers have filed lawsuits. It's cut and dry illegal. Bankruptcy fraud. So, that information went out as well. So they know that. And Todd Blanche is protecting the FBI and DOJ under orders from Obama, then Biden, to get me off the air. And we have all the documents where they funded it illegally. We have all the proof. We sued them. We deposed them. I spent millions deposing them all, getting all their emails, top law firms. And then the Justice Department gets the information, and Ed Martin goes after him and says, preserve your records. I want to talk to you. And then Todd Blanche comes in and says, I'll fire you, Ed Martin. Shut the son of a bitch down right now. Ed Martin needs to be the Deputy Attorney General. And he didn't say that. Okay, I have other DOJ sources that tell me what goes on, but this is the reality.
And could they do that? I mean, because like in the end, I don't think you should use government to make your friends rich or give them special favors. But if you can't deliver justice to people who are on your side, you know, you're not doing it right. And that's really dispiriting and a little weird to be honest.
Here's what's going to happen. They just defaulted Lindell 2 days ago, and they're going to shut down his factory and his thousands of employees.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He doesn't get a trial. The judge in Minnesota found him guilty, and they said it's the Alex Jones model. So now the new thing, I'll bring you in this because it happened. When they defaulted me 4 years ago before the show trial, they said next is Tucker Carlson. So what they do is they pick a judge, they pick a fake story, they run headlines, you said something you didn't do, like Trump, I love the KKK, they're very fine people. He said they're not fine people. And then they sue, and then the judge finds you guilty. Then the judge controls limited information, has a jury trial for the press, but only on the issues they allow of you're already guilty. They instruct the jury. Imagine I'm in Connecticut and Texas, 2 trials, and it's both the same, produced by HBO's, their cameras. The judge goes, Mr. Jones is already guilty of everything they say he did. He cannot put on defense. You will decide how much money he stole from these people, and you will give it to them. And they instruct them he is guilty. And you're sitting there, the opposite of the American system, watching it, and now they just did Mike Lindell. And so will Trump sit there because Todd Blanche kisses his ass, this little Democrat snake, and crucify Mike Lindell and crucify his thousands of employees in Minnesota? Probably. I'm not mad at Trump. I know you're busy, Trump. It's okay. But if you think, oh, this law firm, Paul Weiss, that's been running the bankruptcy attacks on us, agreed to pay $40 million in restitution, agreed to illegal lawfare against Trump and his family and his supporters. And they promised when Boris Epstein got the deal for him 6 months ago to never target any of his supporters again. They wrote off part of their $40 million community service bill and suing me. And so they're still attacking all his supporters, everybody else.
You know, you really have to clean up the justice system or else you can't have a country. I mean, this is just like absolutely crazy. That I think that is why people voted for Trump. It's why I campaigned for him. You have to have justice in your country.
Tucker, I agree. More than an economy, more than stopping war.
I agree.
My listeners want indictments. And finally, Comey, Letitia James.
Indictments of the guilty, not indictments of people you don't like, not indictments of people who pissed you off or who opposed
it's
you.
Cut and dry. They did everything.
People who committed crimes and who have escaped justice because of their political connections. That can't continue.
Well, they started it, Tucker.
Oh, I know.
And so all I'm saying is that I'm a tough guy. I can handle all this. We'll continue on. People can follow me on X at Real Talk Shows. We've got the AGN network set up with sponsors. The point is that they said this is a model for everybody else. Then 2 days ago, Mike Lindell. Oh, sorry, Mike, you don't get a jury trial. You're guilty. Now we're going to instruct a jury how you're guilty. So this is their model. Defaults are only like if you're sued and then you run and leave the country. They still got to have a trial. But they are literally declaring me guilty. And then you've got Todd Blanche, who from all of my sources, I mean, he's a hardcore Democrat, Southern District of New York operative. He was Trump's criminal lawyer, lost those cases for Trump. And this is that weird Trump blind spot. So, hey, Trump, I get it. If you think cutting me loose and Mike Lindell, that's fine. I'm a big boy. I've defended you like nothing else. That's fine. If you think Todd Blanche You know, you got meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell and all this other weirdness. If you think that snake is the answer for you, then you bet everything on that. But as for me, I just know the truth. And the Democrats literally are caught red-handed in their persecution of me and InfoWars and Mike Lindell. And so it's up to you to make the right move here.
I mean, Mike Lindell blew his life up on Trump's behalf. I mean, that's why we're here, is because Mike Lindell loved Trump. And whatever you think of Mike Lindell, he's a very nice man, I think. But even if you hate Mike Lindell, just objectively, Mike Lindell was a pretty successful pillow salesman and got his life together, got off drugs, became a Christian. And then he decided he really loved Trump and he thought Trump was being wronged and they stole the election from Trump. He really believed that. And now they're destroying him. And I just feel like if there's ever someone you need to defend, it's Mike Lindell. Are you kidding?
Yeah, because they've got the fake story about me, like, oh, the guy that peed on kids' graves didn't do it. Trump loves.
Then they can arrest you for public urination. That is not relevant.
But
this is the justice. It doesn't matter. You didn't do it. You're not accused of doing it. Someone else did it, and we can't allow that. We can't allow. If someone does something crazy and invokes your name, you don't get arrested for the thing
I
that
agree.
you did.
And Trump stood up for J6ers and others.
I agree.
So why? Okay, so you're going to let them shut down My Pillow. You're going to let them shut down InfoWars. It's not me. I understand Trump's got bigger fish to fry, but my listeners are enraged by this. They are like, why are you still supporting Trump? Because it's not Kamala Harris. We're getting more done. But if Trump doesn't understand, if he can't support his supporters, I don't know what he can do. And I'll go back to Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche's been a die-in-the-wool top Democrat. He lost all the cases for Trump criminally. And from what I've heard, Bondi's not bad. She's just lazy. Bongino's emotional and a big baby. Patel is compromised. And it's just so sad. He should have Ken Paxton in there. They brought in the Missouri AG as the new deputy FBI head to get, as soon as Bongino leaves. And Bongino should stop worrying about his PR and how he looks and worry more about the future of the country here and put it all on the line, actually, instead of being a hothead. Bongino, I think, is a good guy. But Patel and, Bondi, these are just TV heads. These are just people that are here to be celebrities, in my view. And I'm just saying, and Todd Blanche is a Democrat Party operative who I think he's Bill Barr 2.0. They got another Veritas investigation where they have Bill Barr, former CIA deputy AG twice, literally with Fani Willis setting up the indictments in in Georgia. So is Todd Blanche Bill Barr 2.0? That's the question Trump should be asking. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than me. When the Justice Department reached out and said, "Hey, this is cut dry with you," I said, "Don't you have bigger fish fry?" They said, "No, they were sloppy with you. We've got them," and they do. We have all of it. Total proof of racketeering.
Can I disagree with you on one point? I don't think it's bigger than you. I don't think anything is bigger than the individual. I think that is the Christian message. What matters is the individual, the human soul, the person, each one made in God's image. And whenever your people say, well, it's bigger than just one person, that's bullshit, actually. Nothing is bigger than just one person.
No, Tucker, I agree with you. I'm saying
injustice done to you is a total outrage to the entire world. And by the way, you're not the only victim. If that's what you're saying, I'm hardly the only victim of injustice.
No, that's what I meant, though.
That's for sure. But I think it's so important to make sure, to the extent you can, with the power that you have in this life, to make sure that justice is done for the individual. Like, I really think that is Western civilization. By the way, the Eastern view, which is now very common in our country, deals only with groups and populations and the herd or the tribe. That's why they believe in collective punishment. But the Christian view is no, it's the individual, and each person matters. The hair on your head is numbered by God. So I just feel like we can't allow a single injustice to pass by if we can fix it.
No, to be clear, I totally agree with you. My point was, I know Trump has bigger fish to fry.
No, I get it. Well, that's true.
But he doesn't, because everything they're doing is about, this media paid a thing that said they're wrong. They're laughing at him. They still have their power structure in place. Oh, ABC paid a fine. They paid a fine. Paul Weiss paid a fine. And they're still attacking your most ardent supporters to shut you down. And so that's all I'm trying to say is that will Trump let Mike Lindell get shut down? Will he allow this? All because the deputy AG that really runs everything is really a big leftist and thinks he's smarter than all of us. And it's just so disgusting because we have them cut and dry. And they're like, well, sir, he peed on Graves. No one peed on Graves. No one did any of this stuff they say. Trump never said the KKK are fine people. That was all a lie. And so if you give into their propaganda, they win. Support your supporters. Stand up for them. You know, I saw Barron put out a whole list of vaccine bad reactions to the COVID shot after his dad took the shot. That's going to be the real rebellion here is people around Trump, because he's 79 years old. He's not a bad guy, great guy. Tell him the truth. All of us can't be in a cult. When Trump is wrong, we got to call it out. But yeah, I mean, I'm here and, you know, I've seen this injustice. And I was literally going to say when I came here, we're set a week ago, I couldn't come a week ago because they had a receiver there at the office that day. I was supposed to come, literally looking at everything about to shut down. And I just had to say to people that if they do this to me, they'll do it to you. And then Mike Lindell defaulted. No jury trial, found guilty by a judge. All of you are in danger, folks. This is so real. And if Trump doesn't defend Lindell or me, whatever. I mean, I just hope Trump, when he's out in 3 years, remembers that Todd Blanche is Bill Barr 2.0. And if you think that little sneaky lawyer is your friend, you're a fool. So I think Todd Blanche should be removed, not because of me, but because everybody I talk to, he is literally there working against the president. He's the one telling the U.S. attorneys, don't do these prosecutions. And then Trump gets pissed and says, do it, and they do it. So Trump, you did it with Sessions, you did it with Bill Barr. Why are you doing it with Blanche right now? It's just, please, I don't understand this blind spot of Trump.
I've never heard any of this before, but that's why I'm a fan of yours, because I always learn a lot. Godspeed, Alex Jones. Truly, thank you.
Tucker, love you, brother.
Great to see you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So it turns out that YouTube is suppressing this show. On one level, that's not surprising. That's what they do. But on another level, it's shocking. With everything that's going on in the world right now, all the change taking place in our economy and our politics, with the wars we're on the cusp of fighting right now, Google has decided you should have less information rather than more. And that is totally wrong. It's immoral. What can you do about it? Well, we could whine about it. That's a waste of time. We're not in charge of Google. Or we could find a way around it, a way that you could actually get information that is true, not intentionally deceptive. The way to do that on YouTube, we think, is to subscribe to our channel. Subscribe. Hit the little bell icon to be notified when we upload and share this video. That way you'll have a much higher chance of hearing actual news and information. So we hope that you'll do that.
His mercies are new every morning.